to order, being at 6 o'clock. Supposedly everyone should be signed in by now. So the next thing on the agenda is everyone stand, remove your hat for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Supervisor Powers.
Of your generous charity, I ask you to remember who passed away on Saturday. Father, Lord, we pray to you for Martin and for all those who we love this no longer. Grant them eternal rest, their life and precious has come. This soul is Lord, we pray to you, mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen.
Amen.
Now the invocation. Creator of all things, fountain of all wisdom and peace, we remember before you nations at war and citizens injured in this place. Soften the hearts of those who hate, to learn to live in peace and unity with those who are nearby and those who are far off. Help world leaders find peaceful solutions and ways forward toward harmony and stability. Amen.
Amen. Supervisor Albrecht.
I move to approve this evening's agenda.
Motion is made and second for this evening's agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay.
I make a motion to approve the proceedings for September 5th, September special orders meeting September 19th, regular session, with one correction. One supervisor was not present, but Supervisor Buck was present with that correction.
That was seconded. All those in favor, along with the correction, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Carried. Okay, at this time will be allowed for persons out in the public to go ahead and say anything they would like to say to the county board that has to do with the county, but you have a 2-minute time limit on it. So if you hear the bell, that means that you are done, and we don't want to be rude to anyone, and that means on not any topic. It's just one time you get to talk. So if you want to state your name and address and what you'd like to talk about.
My name is Deb Houts. I live at 295 South Westfield Street in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and I would like to talk about Damascus Road Project, please. I'm a volunteer director with Damascus Road Project. I work directly with their clients who are survivors of sex trafficking and sexual exploitation. When I'm not at my full-time job at the United States Postal Service, I've committed my personal time to serving these women, walking alongside them as they seek healing and restoration. I do this because the cost of doing nothing is too great. It is our hope that each time one of our volunteer directors attends a county meeting, we help you to see the value and the need of the Damascus Road Project. Trafficking education, prevention efforts, and community engagement actually help to keep us all safe. But what about those who have already and who are currently being victimized? The advocacy piece of our organization is the pillar that assists those victimized in our hometowns, and it's essential for our community as a whole. We all know that our community is only as strong as its weakest members. Have you thought about the fact that to live in the body of a survivor is never being able to leave the scene of the crime? These fellow community members need specially trained advocates committed to serve them, often for years to come. Their trauma load is heavy and we connect with them. Healing is a messy, complicated, and layered process. Our new office location will provide the much needed space for us to meet the long-term needs of our ever-growing unique client base with appropriate programs and services. As of tonight's meeting, we now have 628 clients utilizing our organization services in one way or another. 2 of them came last night as it was requested from the Winnebago Human Services to help these ladies. We also have increasing demand for education, prevention throughout the county. In fact, our most recently Trafficking 101 class was attended by over 50 community members. Our new space will allow us to meet the needs of the entire community. We ask you to support us by awarding Damascus Road Project with Spirit funding so we can continue to serve our community. Please weigh my earlier statement and ask yourself, what's the cost of doing nothing? Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Speak your name and address, please.
Matt Olson, 8303 Salby Road, Larson, Wisconsin. I'm the town chairman for the town of Winchester. I believe it is important that the county board be made aware of the long history and ongoing overreach of authority which has become the status quo for the county zoning department as it relates to shoreland and general zoning. To provide a brief history, the county has administered zoning, both shoreland and general, for many years. However, in 1999, when the state of Wisconsin adopted the comprehensive planning law, the zoning landscape began to change. Towns were then given the opportunity to develop, adopt, administer, and enforce general zoning through a statutorily defined process. The town of Winchester completed this process, adopting its own general zoning in 2013, which was then certified by the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection in January 2014. In the years since, there has been an ongoing debate between the town and county zoning department over which entity holds general zoning authority. The county has and continues to refuse to acknowledge the statutory authority provided to the town. Unfortunately, similar situations have expressed themselves statewide. In response, the Wisconsin legislature enacted 2015 Wisconsin Act 41, which was further confirmed with 2019 Wisconsin Act 145, which clarified the legislative intent and confirmed towns' authority to apply their general zoning regulation within shoreland areas. It should be noted that this legislative authority does not supersede the county's shoreland chapter 27, but does supersede the Winnebago County General Zoning chapter 23 by giving the town of Winchester the authorization and jurisdiction over general zoning matters in the town of Winchester, including properties identified as shoreland. Despite the action of the state legislature, the Winnebago County Zoning Department has refused to recognize the town's authority. In response, the town reached out to State Representative Dave Murphy in 2020 and again to State Senator Rachel Cabral Guevara earlier this year for even further clarification. Both inquiries resulted in statements from State of Wisconsin Legislative Counsel Principal Attorney Anna Henning. Attorney Henning's responses further confirm the town's authority to exercise general zoning administration and enforcement in shoreland areas. This information was presented to the county zoning department, which in turn presented it to Corporation Counsel Mary Ann Miller, who responded with the status quo, refusing to recognize the town's authority and claiming the jurisdiction for the county. Clearly an overreach of authority with the refusal to recognize the state legislative actions. The stonewalling of the county zoning department is further exacerbated by the fact that the department, despite claiming jurisdiction, refuses to enforce its own codes. The town has had numerous ongoing activities which violate both the town and the county's general zoning regulations. The interference from the county zoning department has prevented the town from taking enforcement action, while at the same time, the county will not enforce the violations, resulting in ongoing offenses. The town has received complaint after complaint regarding these activities, but has no recourse because of the county's position. It is our hope to avoid litigation. Our goal is to work cooperatively with the Winnebago County Zoning Department to implement the county's Chapter 27 shoreland regulations in tandem with the Town of Winchester general zoning regulations. However, based on the Zoning Department's recent response to our requests, they are not willing to work with us. I am asking you as the governing body to take action to correct this situation. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or for more information. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the board this evening?
Don Nussbaum, 665 Dartmouth Drive, Neenah. I just want to say that Damascus Road is an excellent, needed organization. But what I'm up here to talk about is what Shauna talked about last month about VCY. If you want to know the truth of what's going on, listen to VCY at 2 o'clock on a Friday. They'll give you all the news that you ain't going to hear anywhere else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shauna Zestera, 1882 Clairville Road, Oshkosh. I would like to share a few things. I'd like to pass around 3 folders from the ADRC blind specialist. I feel like it's important to share information, so if that's possible, I would like to do that. These are available, these folders are available to anybody who requests them. Many of my friends have issues that of seeing, and I feel like that's important. Secondly, I'm not able to attend all the ARPA meetings, unfortunately. Recently, there was question of new members that are on ARPA not being aware of a request from the fire department. I spoke with Chief Harbison, and I submitted this back in, I read this to the county board on December 20th, 2022. The Winnebago County Fire Chiefs Association has prioritized our needs for providing public safety in Winnebago County and identified radio replacement as the highest priority. We desperately need funding to provide the radios, as most of our communities will have to borrow to replace them, or worse, not replace them at all. The county fire protection overall is in a critical battle for not only funding, but personnel, equipment, and support from our legislators. Our request, if granted, will enable our departments to continue to provide the effective services to all the residents and visitors to our county. The request will also allow the continued interoperability with law enforcement and other county agencies to satisfy any emergency situation. I would like to submit this eventually to Clerk Bartles, because at the time, it was the amount requested was 1.9 million, which has changed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the board? Anyone else wishing to speak to the board this evening? Anyone else? Is there anyone on Zoom? Okay, we'll consider that part closed. Let's get my glasses out of here. Communication, petition, memorial accounts, commendations.
Good evening, everyone. We have one resolution from Buffalo County, resolution number 230805. It's a resolution regarding foreign ownership of farmland. And then we have one zoning petition from Derek Liebhauser in the town of Clayton to rezone, or from shoreland R2 and R3. No, I'm sorry, it's from non-shoreland to shoreland R2 and R3 shoreland and R4 shoreland. And that's it. Thank you.
Supervisor Bartles, did you want to tell them what's all on the desk tonight at this time? Well, as long as you've got the mic.
On your desk tonight, we gave you a whole pile. You, you have your budget books, and then inside the budget book cover, we put 4 amendments for you to look at. If you don't want to take your budget book home, please just leave it at your desk. We will put your name on it, and we will keep it in the back for on the 30th. The other documents, there's a notice for, I didn't keep a pile for myself. There's a memorial for Mike Norton that's going to be out at the Winnebago Community Park. There's a zoning correction on the original. It said that the septic was private and it should have been municipal. So that's there. There's a correction for the last resolution regarding the Amarillo community, no, it's not, I'm sorry, it's for the first resolution regarding the bonding. What else did I give you? There is a notice, the county is gonna be providing, and maybe Executive Damo will be talking about this too. It's, a mental health first aid for the workplace. This is something that you're also gonna be able to sign up for. John, are you gonna? Okay. And what else did I have? Okay, there is information too regarding the resolution on the bonding. And then the current magazine, a new directory. If you go through and if you do find any mistakes, please let us know and we will get them corrected. It won't be reprinted, but we will make sure it's right on the website. And then some of you had ordered business cards. They're on your desk as well tonight. If there's any corrections that need to be made, please let us know. I believe that's it.
Thank you. Now you took all my work away from me, so. All right. County Executives Report. Whoops, I'm sorry.
Committees, commissions, and boards.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Just hold on, County Executive Damo. Reports from committees, commissions, and boards. I'm sorry. Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank all of the department heads in presenting their budget at the last JPS. It was a rather late night and a lot of great information, so I just would like to thank all of those department heads for coming in and entertaining our questions and going through their specific budget. Really do appreciate it. I also appreciate that Director Collard was there and gave us a rather lengthy introduction, which is greatly appreciated. That's it. Thank you.
Supervisor Defferting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One thing I also want to bring up too is at our next JPS meeting, which will be the first Monday of November, I've made it a point to put this on the agenda to find out a little bit more about why the medical examiner's office as well as the evidence garage has not been built yet. As you may, taking a look at your budget for the medical examiner's office, you will see a raise in transportation costs. That's mostly because we have to travel to Fond du Lac to put all of our bodies. And so this is turning into something where we are costing our constituents a lot of money. And we should have at least started construction on this earlier this year, and nothing has happened yet. So I encourage all supervisors to come to the next JPS so we could find out why it hasn't happened yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Ponzer.
Yes, you had mentioned the Mike Norton bench and tree, but there was no time or date. That's going to be tomorrow at 3:30 at the south end of County Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Stafford.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I actually have one more thing. Just wanted to also make everyone aware that the next JPS, which is November 6th, we are going to be discussing the feedback upon hearing from the special orders meeting on the ad hoc task force committee structuring recommendation. So we will be discussing that at JPS, and so I would highly encourage everyone to, at the very least, zoom in and participate in the discussion as we further refine that recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Bender.
I'd just like to say, when you're out at County Park tomorrow, look at the parking lots. We've got half of them done. But the money was approved in 2021, $750,000, and it was supposed to do them all. But because it took till 2023, we got half of them done. We'll be coming back and asking for another $600,000 so we can complete them. But that's the problem when we drag these projects on. instead of costing $750,000, now we're gonna have to have another $600,000. If we would've just put it out for bids, our highway department, a lot of time is busy, they can't fit the stuff in their schedule. If we'd have put that out for bids in 2021, all the parking lots would have been done for $750,000. Now we got half of them done, and we're gonna have to come back and ask this county board for another $600,000 to complete them. That's why it's so essential that the year that we get the money approved for those projects, to get them complete. Because they're only gonna go up. The sheriff's evidence garage is budgeted at, I believe, at like $1.75 million in 2021. You and I both know that that's gonna come in well over $3 million 3 years later. So it's like, if we don't do the stuff when we get it in the budget year, we might as well just add thousands of dollars onto it, because it's not gonna come in on budget. I mean, that's gonna be probably $3.5 million, and we could have done it for the 1.7 in 2021. So it's essential that when we basically do our capital improvements, the projects get completed in the year the money's approved.
Thank you. Not seeing any other lights. We'll go to the executive's report.
All right, thank you. Yesterday, I was made aware of the passing of Martin Rudd, and it came as a shock to me. Martin was 53 years old. He was leader of UW Oshkosh Fox Cities campus, and it was definitely unexpected, his passing, but Martin was great to work with, and he will be sorely missed. On our advice of Corporation Counsel to ensure compliance with Wisconsin open meeting laws, from now on I'll be noticing the topics of which I plan to address on the board on our agenda. And I'm also going to address a couple items that are on the agenda as well. So going forward, you'll can expect some bullet points underneath executive reports, just so the public is aware of what we may be talking about. First, I want to talk about Winnebago County American Legion Youth Government Day. It's being scheduled in the spring of 2024. Historically, Youth Government Day was held during the budget sessions. The county has been working with the American Legion schools and departments to ensure a high-quality education experience for all students. In the past 2 years, we have more than doubled attendance. We have heard feedback from the teachers and the students that increased involvement of the county department heads and staff have really added to the day. As we know, county government is more than just this courthouse building. Schools which have not attended in many years are expressing the desire to once again attend. As such, we need every available room in this building to host the more than 100 students we are anticipating to come. It is my understanding the American Legion consulted with other posts and has expressed their desire to host Youth Government Day in the spring, as our neighboring counties do. When the date is announced, all elected officials, yourself included, will be made aware and invited to observe and participate with the students. Second, I want to talk about the budget. The printed budget book is on your desk. For years, the October meeting is when the printed document has been distributed. We continue to work to provide you with more information on what the line item budget means. If you have questions, please reach out and ask. I've had two overreaching concerns with this budget. Number one, I want to ensure long-term sustainability of the compensation plan we passed this year. And two, I want to reduce the county's dependencies on planned use of fund balance. When looking at the local dollars requested in the budget, which is primarily the operating levy plus the state shared revenue that was passed, county departments requested about $72.5 million. Without applying fund balance, the county has only $68.2 million. This includes $2.5 million of the new property tax from net new construction and shared revenue after under Act 12. The largest departments requesting levy were the Sheriff's Office with $1.6 million operational dollars, plus the need to fund the new deputy contract, which I don't want to put a number on that because we're still negotiating, but hopefully we can come up with a solution there soon. Facilities was $790,000, information technology needs of over $300,000, and public health and parks asking for about $200,000 each. In short, I had about $4 million more in requests than resources. I took a holistic county approach. The county has one budget and one mission to ensure access to basic needs. And part of that is how do we work better together as a unit. I firmly believe this body has the duty to debate the budget at length. There are things that I did not include in my proposal, not because I didn't support the initiative, simply because I didn't have the resources to ensure the long-term viability of those items. There will be much more time during the budget presentations to explain and discuss specific items and initiatives. We are preparing those presentations. I'm inviting all of you to discuss the budget with me. You can reach out to me or my office. My calendar is open for in-person meetings between now and the budget, and we will do our best to get any kind of request that you have or information to you. Tonight, there are a couple of resolutions I want to comment on. Resolution 271, the new sign at Sunnyview. When I took office, my staff was aware of other counties and municipalities working with a company to build welcome signs. Around the same time, the marquee sign on Jackson for Sunnyview completely stopped working. So this deal not only saves the county the capital cost of the new sign, we won't have to build it, provides the revenue to the park system equal to about a mid-sized event. So it won't cost us any money to build this sign, and we'll get revenue from it. Resolution 272 regarding the Sue Ertmer room. I miss Sue Ertmer's humor, and obviously I encourage you to pass that. And the last one, Resolution 275 regarding the Spirit Fund grant to the Amaro Area Community Center. Late in 2022, the Amaro Community Center was told by the city that their lease was not being extended. This significantly impacted the county operations and programming in the city of Amaro and the surrounding towns. The ADRC Center has a grant agreement with the OACC to support the executive director. The OACC supports at least 3 county departments in our mission to serve the citizens where they are at. As what is identified in the agenda item report, at the very first Veteran Service outreach event we did there, the staff was introduced to a World War II vet who drove to the grocery store and to medical appointments in the west side of Oshkosh. He never would have came down to meet the staff in downtown Oshkosh because he didn't like the one-way streets and he didn't want to cross 41. Our veteran staff were able to connect him with the ADRC and provide him transportation and other assistance. Without an Amaro Area Community Center, county's ability to serve the citizen, and this citizen in particular, would be significantly limited. The ARPA Strategy and Outcome Commission has spent months looking through criteria and projects. When the board eliminated the community project category, that left government-identified community project category as an eligible bucket for Spirit Fund grants. The commission has interpreted that category to mean that the grantee must be directly involved in delivering county programs or reducing the county's need to deliver a programming. The OACC is a strong partner of the county in that mission. A $250,000 grant is much cheaper than the county owning or building or operating a community center, and I ask you to support this grant. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions beyond what I've discussed tonight, and it's not listed on the agenda, I'd be happy to sit down with you and answer those questions to the best of my ability.
I have a question for you, Lee. And I don't want to get into a big discussion about the budget tonight, but we always have gone to department heads, if there's a question, gone to the department heads and get answers. Can they still do that?
Absolutely.
Okay, because you just said your staff or whatever, and I just wanted to make sure they can do that. I heard Supervisor Stafford say how great it was that the department heads come in, and so I just think that the other one should.
Yep, and if you don't think you're getting an answer that you need, please reach out. It's my job to ensure that they'll be responsive to you.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions at this time. So your appointments, and we'll do these one at a time.
Okay. Aging and Disability Resource Center Commission, appointing Tanisha E.A. McLaren of the City of Oshkosh to a term expiring August 31st of 2026.
Motion made and seconded for the approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried.
All right, Board of Adjustments, reappointing Sue Drexler of the Town of Algoma in a term expiring June 30th of 2026.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried.
All right, Board of Health, Supervisor Kay Horan of the City of Neenah in a term expiring July 1st of 2024. Supervisor Horan fills the vacancy in the county code that requires them to live in the City of Neenah.
Motion made and seconded. Supervisor Schellinger, do you have a question?
I have a comment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to vote against this. I think Supervisor Haran has been an incredibly skeptical person of the health department, and skepticism is a good thing. Many members of this board share a healthy skepticism, but that often comes with curiosity. And I feel like when it comes to the Board of Health, Supervisor Haran has not shown compensatory curiosity to match the skepticism, and I don't think that's the best direction for our Board of Health. So I will be voting no. Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
3 nays, I think you had. We better vote by machine, so in case it comes back. We'll do this by vote by machine, only because in case somebody wants to come back and bring this back, it's done that way. So if you're in favor of Supervisor Haran, vote hey. If you're not, vote nay. And Supervisor Haran is the new one, 25, 7, and 2. Okay.
All right, for the Human Services Board, Supervisor Kay Haran of the City of Neenah to a term expiring December 31st of 2023. Supervisor Haran fills a vacancy caused by the resignation of Rachel Youngquist.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried.
Veteran Service Commission, reappointment of Jerome F. Schultz of the Village of Winneconne to a term expiring December 31st of 2026.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried.
All right, and lastly, the Winnefox Library System Board of Trustees, Samantha or Sam Goldman of the City of Oshkosh to a term expiring December 31st of 2024. Ms. Goldman fills a vacancy for an Oshkosh representative on the board.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. County Board Chairman's report. It'll be real short. Julie took it all away tonight, which was very nice of her. Excuses Nate Gustafson. He is in, I would imagine Madison when he called me. And we will be filling the seat of Rachel Youngquist, but we can't tonight because the person couldn't be here. He had a family obligation on him, a big family person, if he couldn't be here, so, but I can tell you who it will be. It'll be George Barrow from up in that area. I'm sure some of you probably heard him or know of him, but you'll get his full resume and everything next time. We will be appointing him just before the budget starts. So it'll be the end of the month here. We'll make sure he gets a budget book and everything, and he can jump right in with both feet and probably know as much as any of us when he jumps in, but so that's when, so you'll be getting his full resume and everything on that. Supervisor Hanson.
Oh, I apologize, you just said
Okay.
about the resume. Could you state his name again, please?
George Burrow. We were going to send that out this month, but we thought we shouldn't because he, like I said, he wasn't going to be here, and so you'll be able to ask questions and all this and that. So if you want. Like we said, the budget book's on here. I know Julie said if you don't want to take it, that they'll put your name on it and back. I don't know how you can study the budget book unless you go online or take it home. There's a lot of pages here. There's a lot of money to be spent. You heard the county executive. There's a lot of things that's gone through here. So you do what you want, but unless you're going to be studying it by the end of the month, it isn't going to do you any good. So if you're just going to leave it sit back there, it was a waste of time for him to even print them. So, and if you see something in there and you want to make some amendments on there, you also got some sheets in there. You can start writing them up and getting them ready. If you see anything in there that you want to be amended or changed or whatever, then we'll be taking, I believe, probably Corporation Council And I don't know who else will be, there'll be 2, 3 of them anyways, that'll be writing them up to put them in the right order and that, so. But getting them out ahead of time in case you see anything. Okay. So at this time, we have a presentation from a regional tourism and projects by Paul Sundquist. He's a ex-board member who's on here many years, and he's been associated with the county for a long time, and this is something that he's dear to his heart here. So I told him I'd give you, what was it, 2 minutes, Paul? I forgot what it was.
You said I had a half hour, but actually you said 5 minutes, then you get the hook.
Okay.
Thank you. Number one, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Number two, I would like to thank this board for being here. The county board has done a wonderful job over the years of taking care of the people of Winnebago County, and I had the privilege of being where you are now, and I have the privilege of speaking to you now. What I'd like to do is tonight is give you some good news, and I'd like to talk about something called tourism. And our improvements over last year, and this is a 2022 because 2023 is not out yet. But in 2022, we had a 19% increase. Brings in $272.7 million to Winnebago County. 4,177 jobs. These are $40,000 a year jobs. And I just want to let you know what tourism has done for us. And much of this is self-inflicted, if you will. And that is some of the things that the county board have done have made this possible. For example, many years ago, we did a county, we redid the county park. We also redid the county airport. We added a last extension runway to the runway. We started the EAA taxiway. Now last year, EAA had 650,000 people show up. Winnebago County at the park for the Life Fest, for the week they were there, was 100,000 people. 750,000 people came to Winnebago County in those 2 or 3 weeks. And I think that's fantastic. But a lot of this is done because the county took the initiative years ago and set the table. And I'm most appreciative of that. So that's 50 weeks of the year. The question we have is, what do we do with the other 49? So there's, what can we do together to make it work? Well, there are some things that we kind of looked at. And what I looked at is counties working together can be very effective. For example, I've never heard of anybody who ever said they went to vacation Adams, Columbia, Sauk, whatever counties. Nobody ever goes to those counties on vacation. But that wide spot in the Mississippi River called Wisconsin Dells is where those counties are located. How about that? And that's, so they didn't, nobody goes to Sauk County. But you take a county like Sauk County, they're half the size we are. And they do 4 times the business we do. But they have something they work under called the Wisconsin Dells. A little closer to home, or right next door, at the north part of that, there's a place called Adams County, right next to Waushara County. Adams County does twice the business that Waushara County does in business. So that's something that maybe we'd like to consider about maybe working together. To bring the matter closer to home yet, there is something called, in the northern part of Calumet County, they have something they call themselves the Fox Cities. They don't call themselves the Appleton Chamber. They call themselves the Fox Cities. The Fox Cities, thereby having people from 3 counties, from northern Winnebago, Needham-Menasha, town of Harrison and Calumet, as well as everything north of Appleton, Kaukauna, Combined Locks, Little Chute, ad nauseam, are part of the Fox Cities. Now, one thing nice about that, and something that we might want to consider, is that Outagamie County does 40% more business than we do. but they call themselves the Fox Cities, and they take a regional approach. And that is something I hope we're able to do. We have been working on something like that, and I guess what we have been working with is the Wisconsin Counties Association. And we have had 3 counties have been working together for promoting a product. And what we decided to call ourselves was the we decided to call ourselves was the Endless Shores. It's Winnebago County, 25% of this county is water. It's something that I can't believe that we haven't done more to, we take it for granted, and I don't think we appreciate it as much as we should have. Nobody's got anything like this, but we have it. And if we can sell it, it can be very helpful to us. I would like to thank, number one, I'd like to thank 2 things, 2 people, 2 other sources. The Wisconsin Counties Association supplies us with the staff and administration to make this possible. Everything every dollar we have goes to advertising. They provide the tent under which we work. And they've done that for years, and I must take my hat off to them because they've done a fantastic job of it. The other thing that I have to thank is the Industrial Development Board. The Industrial Development Board pays our dues. As a side issue, the Industrial Development Board has always been very positive for Winnebago County. It was 30 years ago that they had half-prime loans that lent them to communities like Armour, Winnie County, Neenah, Menasha, and these half-prime loans were meant for infrastructural development only, and all they ask you to do is you have to pay it back. Well, they took those loans, they put into infrastructure, they put in the infrastructure that brought factories and jobs, and that is probably one of the reasons why today we are living with that, in that before the last pandemic, we had, $15 million surplus, and we don't even have a sales tax because we haven't needed it. So I just wanted to say thank you for the IDB. Our dues, by the way, are $11,000. It amounts to about 6 cents per capita. And anyway, our per capita income from tourism is like $1,570 some. So we got to thank the Industrial Development Board. I thank Winnebago County. And if I just, one thing with regard to tourism, which I've dawned on me, when people come to this community, they come here to spend their money. They spend their money, they give us jobs, they give us employment, and they go home. Or they stay here, and then they become part of our workforce. Either way, we win. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next is a presentation proposal on merge paid time off, PTO, planned by Mark Habach, Director of Human Resources, Jamie Luring, and Stephanie Sting from Human Resource.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very pleased to be here tonight to share with you some suggestions we have as a result of the compensation study that was undertaken late last year and finished up in January. I'd like to introduce with me tonight, I've got Jamie Luring and Stephanie Stieg, both human resource generalists in our department, and the three of us are going to be presenting to you tonight regarding paid time off. And I would just ask that you would hold any questions you have until the end of the presentation. Hopefully we'll answer some of your questions as we go through the presentation, and we'll have hopefully plenty of time to answer anything that comes up. So the objectives that we had was to review the findings of the compensation study. We took a look at those findings. We reviewed a current snapshot of how the county currently handles time off for employees. We did a comparison amongst other counties that are on what I would call a traditional model, like we are right now, that being vacation, separate sick time, separate holiday, separate floating holiday. We're also going to talk about why we're recommending a change, cover the timeline of this process, share with you the new PTO proposal, talk about how we would transition from our current system to a new system, look at some comparisons of counties that are already on a PTO system, talk about the cost, and then cover some takeaways, summaries, and answer any questions that you have. So again, from the compensation study that had been done earlier, there were two recommendations, both in 2016 and 2023. It was recommended that we look at increasing paid time off benefits under the system that we have now, or transitioning to a paid time off system. Also in 2016 and 2023, it was concluded that sick time is currently under market, and if we stayed in our current system, that we move from 8 days of sick time per year to 12. It was also known that the county is a bit behind in the accumulation of vacation. The consultant recommended that benefits need to be competitive. We've talked through all of these presentations about the need to retain and attract employees, and we also want to allow employees new flexibility with their earned time off. So we're coming before you with a recommendation regarding PTO due to the administrative ease, the simplification, and new flexibility that it would provide. The current model is a significant administration burden.
Thanks, Mark. So let's take a look at what we currently offer our employees. We offer traditional time, as Mark had said, so vacation, regular holidays, floating holidays, sick time, and funeral leave. All of that time is prorated when a new hire starts. This is based off of 10 vacation days, 8 sick days, an average of 3 floating holidays, an average of 2 funeral leave days, 10 fixed holidays, except for Parkview, who have 7, and then that comes to a total of 33. If we take out the fixed holidays and bereavement leave, comes to a total of 21.
All right, thank you, Jamie. So the next few slides that I'm going to be talking about is going to transition into a deeper dive into the county analysis. So Winnebago County HR requested time off information from all other counties in Wisconsin. Out of the 71 counties that we have, 30 participated, resulting in a 42% response rate. 11 counties we have are currently on PTO. 19 counties are on our traditional bucket system. And at least 7 other counties will be looking to us to see what we do after we modify our time off benefits, because they're looking to change theirs. So, as it stands for county comparisons with traditional time off, vacation. So out of our 30 responding counties, 19 are on traditional vacation time. 10 counties are offering more vacation time over Winnebago's 30-year career. So we looked at 30-year career in these counties, 30-year career in our counties. 10 are offering more today. 9 are offering less. So just to give that as a visual, Here's our pie chart. As you can see, 47% are offering less, 53% are offering more. I just wanted to note that the consultant did note that our vacation accruals were a bit behind. This was consistent with our findings. So, paid time off as it relates to sick time. So for the purposes of comparison, 60 days or 12 weeks was our benchmark. And the reason why we picked that benchmark is because 12 weeks is what would be needed in order to cover a full FMLA leave. So out of the 30 responding counties, 15 are on traditional sick time. 86% of those counties are offering a more competitive sick time than we are today. 7% are less competitive, and 7% are equal to us. So 73% of all comparable counties take 5 years to reach 60 days of sick leave. Winnebago County is currently taking 8 to reach 60 days. So again, just the pie chart visual for those of you who are visual. Again, 86% of those counties that we asked for a response rate are offering more sick time than we are.
Thanks, Stephanie. So why do we need to look at making a change? We want to become competitive with our paid time off. We want to retain and attract, that's the goal we've been talking about this whole time. Lessen limitations on the employee's time, create more flexibility with time off, and ease the administrative burden and uniform rules for paid time off. So what do I mean when I say uniform rules? Departments still hold different rules based on old union contracts that no longer exist for most departments. These rules are now arbitrary and create a silo system. So what does this look like? For vacation, accrual rates for some Parkview employees differ in your first year of hire. Floating holidays, depending on what department an employee works in and what position they hold, they could have 0, 2, 3, 4, 7, 12, or 13 floating holidays. Regular holidays, some employees get 7 and some get 10. Some of our 24-hour departments receive all of their regular holidays as floating holidays and others do not. And then there's a difference in how vacation is earned for those hired pre-2019 and post-2019. Please note that because there are so many differences in these things, there is not an effective way to revise our current system in order to uniform these items without creating that silo system that we have, and there would be winners and losers in that system. So what have we been up to? In spring of 2023, HR performed the benefit analysis that Mark and Stephanie have talked about. In spring of 23, we created potential PTO models. Early in summer, we took that model to the executive team with a work group to revise models and create the plan that you see today. In September, we held 11 employee meetings and met with IT. And then presenting PTO to PNF, we did that earlier this month. We're here talking to you today. We'll go to a vote in November and hope to implement on 1/1 of 24. So what is paid time off? Paid time off refers to the time that you are paid when you are not working. Employers can structure this differently. What we currently have is this bucket system, so where vacation is separate from sick family, floating holiday, funeral, mental health, etc. We're looking to combine all of those together into one bank of time referred to as PTO. So what is our new PTO proposal? We're looking to combine paid time off into 2 separate banks. The first bank is called PTO. This is a max of 480 hours. The second bank is called ELB, or Extended Leave Bank. Those terms will be used interchangeably, and there is no max to the ELB bank. PTO days are based on your years of service with Winnebago County and your employment status. PTO is accrued bi-weekly at the end of each pay period according to an accrual schedule. There will be no more what we call, quote, rolling over time from year to year. You would just continue building upon the PTO bank. As Stephanie had mentioned, please note that 480 hours for the PTO bank was chosen for a reason. 480 hours equals 60 days, which also equals a full qualifying FMLA leave. Okay, so the numbers, the new PTO proposal. PTO will now include vacation, sick family, floating holidays, and bereavement leave. You will accrue PTO when you are in a paid status. So that means any hours that you are working, any PTO hours you may be using, and any ELB hours you may be using. You will start at 0 and earn up to the max by the end of the calendar year. Your year of hire counts as year 1. You accrue PTO bi-weekly in line with your paychecks. Time is increased every 2 years up until year 19. As you can see up here, a new hire would be start accruing 25 days of PTO upon hire. Holidays would remain a separate benefit as they do currently, and this would allow for flexibility for lateral transfer benefits. Stephanie has a story for this.
So I thought it would be appropriate to share a hiring impact story. So you're going to hear why this is important to obviously retain the current employees we have. How do we attract new ones? So I thought it would fitting to share this story with you. So this week we are hiring, well, we're currently hiring for mechanics at the highway department. That is no small feat. It is a highly specialized role. Hard to find. We have interviewed mechanics. I got to offer a position yesterday on my birthday, super exciting, to this person. So I do job offers over the phone, okay? So when I offer, I have all of my homework ready, what we're gonna offer for pay, and then I go over benefits. I'm going over paid time off. I'm highlighting the pension, all of those things, okay? I'm ticking off. I'm hearing radio silence from this gentleman, okay? So I'm thinking, oh, there's gonna be a negotiation at the end. We'll be ready for that. And then I had mentioned, hey, by the way, here's what we're offering per paid time off, but we're also looking at perhaps implementing a new policy for PTO. And upon hire, if this were to pass, you would be offered 25 days of PTO throughout the calendar year on your first day of hire. There was an audible gasp on the other end of the phone, and he accepted immediately.
Okay, so back to what is an extended leave bank or ELB. This is a separate bank where employees' paid time goes when they have reached the maximum number of hours allowed in your PTO bank, so that 480 hours. Anything after 480, so 481, the 1 is going to start flowing into the ELB. We hope you appreciate our graphic here. So in the ELB, there will be no max to the number of hours that are allowed in the ELB. Employees who have current frozen sick time, they will keep their frozen sick time. That's not going away. It will still be eligible for payout as it has been in the past. It will just now be housed in the ELB. Employees' current sick time will go into the ELB, and the ELB will not be eligible for payout. So what can someone use an ELB for? Just as a recap, this is a bank of time reserved to provide income for specific events. This accumulates after PTO has reached 480. An employee could use the ELB for an FMLA leave, an ELB LOA, what does that mean? An extended leave bank, leave of absence, bereavement leave, and military leave. Just as an example, some employees may have, chronic diseases or something along those lines, and they may not currently fill out the FMLA paperwork, but they would qualify, so those individuals could use their ELB banks.
Okay. So as part of this PTO proposal, we're also looking at updating our leave policy for loss. So under our current policy right now, we offer a funeral benefit. Those definitions are narrowly defined based off of narrowly defined family definitions. Right now, you're allowed up to 3 days, which is, again, if your family member who passed away falls within the definition of the current county guidelines. Once funeral leave is exhausted, so you could either be approved 1, 2, or 3 days. Once that's exhausted, your only choice as an employee is to either use your vacation time, your floating holiday, or go unpaid. No sick time was allowed for this. So we're looking at moving and updating to a bereavement policy and modernize the definition of a loss to a human loved one. We're looking at utilizing PTO and ELB for a total of 7 days that you could utilize paid time off for the loss or the death of a loved one, and that's for each loss. Instead of offering a one-time limited benefit, former funeral days are now included in the annual PTO accrual every year. ELB is now allowed to be accessed for bereavement. Again, that was former sick time, and under the new policy, it would be above and beyond the 480-hour max. termination and retirement payouts. So under the current system, earned but unused vacation time is paid out upon termination of employment. This excludes the 5 days that are eligible for rollover. Under the new system, this plan would keep payouts similar to the current payout levels that we have currently due to financial restraints, but it also sets us up for a framework for the future should that change. Employees who are, and just want to note, this is extremely important. So there are employees out there who have frozen sick banks, and those are eligible for payout. Those are not going away or not changing. They are just going to be housed in the ELB, and they are still subject to be paid out at the rate in which they were frozen. All right. Payout eligibility. So in order to be eligible for a PTO payout upon voluntary resignation or retirement, employees need to provide and complete a proper notice. How much notice do they need to give? Hourly employees need to provide a 2-week notice, and all salaried and professional need to provide 30 days. So why the difference? 30 days for salaried and professional is purposeful. Right now with our payroll system, salaried and professional individuals are actually paid ahead of what they're actually working. So we would like to avoid clawing back a last paycheck and make that's uncomfortable. So we want to make sure that 30 days is given and it's adequate. All retirements are changing from 30 to 60 days. And then completing a proper notice means being in a paid status for all of your shifts within the notice. So for example, if you were to give a 2-week notice, you would need to work out your 2 weeks in a paid status, which means hours worked, utilizing ELB, utilizing PTO with the last day worked according to law. And then anyone who leaves before completing 1 year of service does not require or is not eligible for a PTO payout.
As we had mentioned, we had 11 meetings with employees regarding this system. And as we presented it to employees, it was presented in such a way that this isn't, at the time, this isn't the final recommendation. This really was to gauge feedback from employees, hear what their concerns were, and see if there was a way that we could minimize those concerns and address them and make the plan that we thought was good even better. So some of the feedback that we've received from employees that we're taking into account is that all remaining vacation and floating holiday that was earned in 2023 would roll over and convert to paid time off if we go to this system. Currently, only 5 days of vacation can roll over as vacation. Anything more than that goes into sick time. So with this, we'd roll anything that was unused into PTO. Also, and it's a little different because we've had some feedback since we made this PowerPoint, but we're going to take up to 8 days of sick time that employees have already earned, so it's time that they already have on the books, and we're going to take up to 8 days and move that into PTO on January 1st. Any sick time that's already on the books above that, in excess of that, gets converted to that extended leave bank. Also, we had a lot of feedback regarding FMLA leave. So if we have an employee who's taking an FMLA leave, especially in the first part of the year, they weren't planning on this system. They were planning on our current system. And as we explained in an example, maybe an employee had 21 days that they were expecting to have in hand on January 1st. And perhaps they were going to use that full 21 days right away as part of an FMLA leave. Under some transition rules, we're going to allow advancing the employee up to the amount of time that they would have earned under our current system right away on January 1st. That will allow them to take the leave that they had planned along with whatever type of pay that they were planning at the time. And because of the PTO accrual rates, they'll actually still come out ahead and have earned more time by the end of the year than what they would have under our current system. Also, we're looking to advance, again, up to 2 weeks or 80 hours of PTO through June of next year. The idea behind that, again, we could have an employee who under our current system, they get all their time on January 1st. So if they were expecting to get those 21 days on January 1st, maybe they've already booked a vacation, they have plans, they have something right away in January, February, something like that. We thought it was only reasonable to make sure that we could advance them some time, and again, ease the transition of this. Also, the extended leave bank, that'll be completely available for use just like sick time is right now for 2024. And then also providing and completing a proper notice and a paid status. When we originally spoke to employees, we talked about that they would have to physically work every one of those days of the notice period. But as we talked about it, as we solicited employee feedback, there's a lot of different things that can happen, especially when you're providing a 30-day notice. So as long as the time is covered in a paid status, they would remain eligible for payout. Now, we're still receiving feedback. Even tonight I was talking with Supervisor Bender about some feedback he received. So one of the things we'll take into consideration are things, for instance, do we extend some of these transition rules perhaps even into 2025? Let there be a little bit longer window of being advanced time for employees. And his suggestion was maybe we look at something like 5 days in 2025 just to help with employees transitioning to a new system. So we're still open to considering some of those types of things. We really have tried to focus on flexibility and meeting the employees what their particular needs are at. So then we also took a look at paid time off, as I had mentioned before, with other counties. And as we talked about, 11 of the 30 responding counties are on a PTO system right now. So this is not something that's necessarily new and unique. It's new to us because we haven't done this before, but it's certainly not unheard of. As we've spoken about our current system, we're not as competitive for paid time off in comparison to 19 of the responding counties. 56% of all responding counties offer more vacation time and 86 offer more sick time. So when we took a look at crafting PTO and what would PTO look like for us if we were to do this, because again, we have the opportunity to really make this our own and take a look at what our needs are. If this proposal's passed, we'd offer the second best PTO plan out of the 11 responding counties who currently operate under a PTO model. And then keep in mind, we have other counties that are currently on a traditional system like we are that are interested in what we do because they want to follow suit. And so we want to make sure that whatever change we make, we stay competitive with surrounding counties. One of the things that we've talked about when presenting to employees is because we have all these variations right now, we have all these different departments, different groups earning different amounts of time. This really provides a systematic, consistent framework throughout the entire county for our employees. Not only does that help us in administering the benefit, but let's say down the road we need to take a look at being more competitive in the market. Well, now we've already established this common framework that lets us make those adjustments as we need to go instead of creating an entirely new system. Again, this graphic just shows the paid time off county comparisons by PTO. So again, if this plan was approved, we would have 91% of those offering PTO would not be as competitive as what this plan would be.
Thank you, Mark. So Mark spoke to you about, being competitive, attracting and retaining, and that's super crucial. What's also crucial is that we can afford it, right? So I want to talk to you a little bit about cost. Moving to PTO is actually going to save us money. So under the current system, right now, we prorate all employees' time up front. So what that means is someone upon hire is prorating their floating holidays and their vacation up front. So you have the potential to burn through all of your time before you've earned it, because you actually are earning time off in our current system as you move through the calendar year. I won't bore you with the numbers, But right now, when we prorate upfront and an employee burns through more time than they've taken, money is lost because we can't claw that back. We attempt to, and we do. Payroll does a nice job, but we still lose out on money. So right now with PTO, it's an earn-as-you-go system. There's nothing to claw back. That results in savings. Currently, under our current system, the county is paying out, we're doing a payout for all remaining vacation regardless of a proper notice. I'll give you an example. It was 4:02 today. My phone rang. I picked it up. I had an employee that I hired 2 months ago. He called me and said, today was my last day at the county. And I said, tell me more about that. We had a conversation, but ultimately he decided that this wasn't a fit for him and he was leaving. No proper notice. That was a 5-second notice. The department hadn't even gotten notice of that. I had to inform them. So requiring a proper notice to be provided and completed will also result in savings. And then 100% payout, regardless of length in service, is what we're doing now. Under the PTO proposal, employees who leave here before completing a year of service would not be eligible for a PTO payout. The reason being, I want to be able to give money to the employees who stay here, and I want to be able to give money back to the bottom line. So what is the cost of the PTO plan? So current costs right now, we're doing payouts for vacation and frozen sick time. We're also going to be doing payouts for PTO. That's not changing. That is going to be a fixed cost. What are some of the future costs? So we know that there's a potential of increasing days off. It's going to cost us more. But truly, if we look at national trends, that suggests that we're going to have to do that no matter what. Productivity cost. What is the productivity cost of offering a PTO package or proposal? The data is both. It costs you money to provide paid time off to employees. We know that. But it also costs you money if you don't. Burnout factor. That's very important. So we have to balance that judiciously. Future savings. So, attracting and retaining as it stands today. It takes 229 shifts to cover one vacancy in the county right now. As of September 26, 2023, we had 100 vacancies to hire for. I'll let that sink in. 100. That was on as of 2 weeks ago. So, with the clawback notice that I had talked about, or clawing back paid time off that was burned through but not earned, requiring a proper notice, and less than 1 year not providing a PTO payout, that impacts our bottom line. So we quantified that number for you. From January until July of this year, that could have saved us $67,117. And that was just in 7 months, and that was only looking at 4 people who burned through their time and left us. Only 4. And those other measures. So the cherry on top to this, especially as we talk about 2024 budget, there's going to be no adjustment to the 2024 labor budget because of implementing PTO. I just wanted to let you know that if PTO proposal passes and we look at that 67,000 number, that's an average of $10,000 of savings a month. That equivalates, if I project that out to 2 years, we're going to save the county $240,000.
So what are our current employee demographics? We broke them out into 2 different categories because there are different retirement ages for these 2. So under Sheriff's Office, 14% of employees are eligible to retire under WRS right now. An additional 9 will be eligible to retire under WRS in the next 3 years. That comes to 23% of Sheriff's entire workforce will be WRS eligible to retire from 0 to 3 years. Everyone else, non-Sheriff's Office, 20% of employees are WRS eligible to retire right now. An additional 7% will be eligible to retire in the next 3 years. For a total of 27 of non-sheriff's entire workforce will be WRS eligible to retire in the next 0 to 3 years. For a grand total of 27% of Winnebago County's entire workforce is slotted to reach WRS retirement age within the next 3 years. So this really just hits home why it is so important to attract and retain talent.
So a paid time off system solves the following issues. First of all, it allows us to be more competitive with paid time off. And we believe that by being more competitive with paid time off, it's going to help us attract candidates, fill those vacancies when employees leave, as well as hopefully it'll help us retain some of those employees that we already have. Just because someone's eligible to retire doesn't necessarily mean that they have to. And if we can keep some people that otherwise would retire, that's also a win for us. It also lessens the limitations on employee time. Right now, because we have different buckets, we're basically dictating how certain time can be used. And what I mean by that is, let's say you earn sick time. We've got rules about how you can access sick time. We have rules about how much sick time gets carried over year to year. We have rules about how vacation's used, how much vacation can be carried over. PTO changes that, and it really provides the employees the ability to direct their own plan for what they need. As we talked to employees, we said, if we asked all 1,100 employees what would they like to see in a time off system, we'd probably have 1,100 different answers. Everyone's got different needs. They're in different stages of their life. They have different challenges that they're facing. And so we really tried to come up with a system that provided the greatest benefit for the largest number of employees, that gave them the most flexibility. So that person who maybe has a lot of time off for medical needs, or maybe they're starting a family, or maybe they've got a lot of time built up and they want to take some additional vacation. It really puts the employee in control of their time and how they choose to use it, or how they may choose to save it for what they're planning for their family in the future. And also, as we've talked about, it really does ease that administrative burden, providing some uniformity within the county. Both Jamie and Stephanie, Stephanie started within the last year with us. She's been with the county longer. Jamie's been here just more than a year. And when they make job offers and they realize, well, if I'm offering this job in this department, here's the benefits that the employee gets. But yet if it's this position in this other department, this is the benefit they get. Sometimes even within the same department, there might be differences in things like floating holiday and things like that. So it really, we have a very eclectic system right now, which makes things challenging. And I would argue that from an employee standpoint, we're missing out on some just fundamental fairness issues. We really just want to say, you're a county employee, welcome to Winnebago County. These are the benefits that we offer. So some takeaway points. Approving the PTO proposal concludes the major, as I talked about the first time, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? This really concludes the final big elephant from the compensation study. There's always going to be things that we can look at to tweak and to change. There are still some payroll consistencies that were recommended in the pay study. There's some different benefit things that we still want to look at. But as far as the really big, heavy lift, major points that were identified, this finishes that off. Like I talked before, it provides a uniform framework for the future. We set that curve for other surrounding counties that are looking to switch to PTO. And again, it provides us in HR with some flexibility for lateral transfer hiring, and really helps us hopefully live up to that motto that we have of being the wave of the future, and really modernizing a little bit some of our time off and how we do things. We talk a lot with employees about the culture that we create. And we think that this proposal can create a culture that'll be competitive for retaining employees, attracting new ones, and giving everyone more flexibility with their earned time. It really empowers the employees to manage their time based on their needs while retaining and rewarding them for their hard and important work. So with that, we'd certainly like to open the floor for any questions or feedback. We included with the packet a document that we had prepared in Human Resources, both for the board as well as for employees, kind of a frequently asked questions document. We hope to be able to address as many questions that there might be. Certainly we based a lot of those off of feedback that we had from the employee meetings that we held. But Mr. Chairman, any questions that we have, we'd be happy to take.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Will there be an option for colleagues to donate any time off to someone who's suffered a catastrophic event? Thank you.
Great question. We've had a lot of internal discussions of what that might look like. It's certainly on the table. It's not a specific piece of this proposal. Right now, we allow the donation of vacation time to employees. It's typically employee-driven, employee to employee. One of the things we're looking at is creating more of a bank. And what I mean by that is employees could donate to a bank, and then we would have a separate, maybe employee committee, for instance, that would look at requests for that time. So that's a future piece. It's not necessarily built in. It's not prohibited under this plan, but we also don't have a specific policy for it yet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is centers around the employees that are under a union contract, specifically law enforcement. How will this impact their contracts?
This would not. They would be the one group that would not fall under PTO. And actually, we've been having some, and it's because they're represented, have a different system in place per contract. We've also been talking with the sheriff's office and would likely carve out the administrative command staff that are deputies of the sheriff's office, so that all the deputies basically would follow the procedures set forth in whatever they would negotiate.
And how many departments are under contract at this county?
One.
Just the one?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there anything in the PTO about taking paid time off for funerals for your pets?
No. No. What we had talked about in the bereavement leave is we want to, right now we have, you either get 1 day or 3 days off, and they're for very defined relationships. Under a bereavement policy, people have different family structures, people have different people that are important to them in their life, and we really want to open that up, and we're proposing to open it up to a human loved one, specifying human. But of course, we do have some pet lovers that work for us, and if someone, for whatever reason, needs time off of work, they would use their PTO for that. It would not be a separate benefit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, I just want to say, and to Jamie and Stephanie, you guys did a fabulous job. This is my second time looking at this proposal, and I just want to say it's a wonderful tailored proposal, I think, for the district. I'm excited because I think the goal that we're trying, the county, sorry, that's my old school board days. I think the goal of our county, and I think you're achieving that with how we're trying to look at the county at a whole as opposed to all these different departments. I was surprised as a newbie when I came in and you did this presentation for us a couple weeks ago that there were so many different forms of how you can take time off and the different departments with somebody had a different floating holiday here than here, the days off here than there. I love this. It's efficient. I can't believe how much of a logistical nightmare that probably was for HR prior to this, trying to weed through, okay, you're working for this position, but this department has this days off and that. I can't even imagine. This just seems so much more logical and efficient. And I just want to thank you for bringing this to the board. And yeah, I think this is the perfect goal for the county, to look at us as more of a county employee as opposed to I work for this department employee. I mean, that's second tier, obviously, but the goal is we're in county employees and so forth. So I just want to thank you guys for this work. It's wonderful. Thank you. And my husband works for Oshkosh Truck, and we just went through this transition, I don't know, about 5 years ago maybe? I can't even remember. It was easy, simple. They worked with us just like you guys are willing to work with our employees. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much for that feedback. And I've told some of you individually, but you know, truly, I wouldn't be up here today able to share something like this with you without the hard work of Jamie and Stephanie and the rest of my team. They've really come together. This has been a passion project of sorts, because truly we do want to shift the culture, and we want to recognize employees and value them, keep them, and bring them here. So that's really our goal.
Thank all three of you for this good presentation. I have 4 questions, and well, I have 3 questions and 1 statement. So the 100 positions, I would assume, from my knowledge of Parkview, that Parkview holds a lot of that 100 positions.
57.
See, how much?
57 of those were Parkview.
Right, okay. Just so this group doesn't think that it's all-encompassing, Parkview's been short. Okay, that was a statement. Lateral moves, this probably is for Mark. So I know of a lateral move that took place from the airport to the Parks Department. I call it lateral because you're moving from one department to the other, but the person took a raise in pay, couldn't stay at the airport and do that, so went to the Parks Department. That happens quite a lot, that people move from department to get the higher dollars, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When someone retires, they can convert, and I may say this wrong. Let's say they had vacation and sick days. And so there's people I know that are retiring from the Sheriff's Department end of this year. They can convert that to paid health insurance. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that still going to be an option with this
Yes.
system? Okay. All right. And then on the page where you've got PTO new proposal, I'll take the first graph where you've got minimum years 0, maximum 2 years. That first line, PTO will include PTO days 25. So it's kind of a twofold question. I come to work for the county, let's say, on January 1st, because that's the simplest one.
Yep.
Do I get 25 PTO days in that first year? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes. In essence, think of it like a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to earn whatever you earn over the course of the year. We don't just pay you an annual allotment either at the start of the year or the end of the year. You work, every 2 weeks you get paid. This would be a similar concept where, based on the number of hours that you're working, you're going to earn or accrue PTO throughout the year. So in essence, every pay period, you'll get your check of your pay. You'll also get some PTO that you've earned. Now, over the course of that year, a brand new employee would earn 25 days of paid time off.
And I quit on January 1st of the next year, but I've worked for what I consider a calendar year. Do I get that 25 days?
If you have whatever you haven't used, whatever has been earned but unused, since you've been here under your scenario a year, that would qualify for a payout.
Okay. What is, right now, currently, what is the maximum vacation that a person makes if they would stay, and I'll use another example. If I'm here 30 years, does that depend on where you came from, where you started, what you're doing, if you switch departments? Or at 30 years, I have 6 weeks vacation?
Our vacation right now is based on years of service with the county.
Okay.
And right now, PTO doesn't change that.
Okay.
Our current vacation schedule, you can earn up to 5 weeks of vacation if you max out on vacation. But in addition to those 25 vacation days, you would get 8 sick days. You would also get 2, 3, 4 floating holidays. And then outside of this would be the 10 regular holidays that we recognize as they occur.
So if someone says, I'm going to retire,
Mm-hmm.
do you have a lot of where if I'm going to retire December 31st that you say, you know what, you've got all this, you can take it as a payout, or we can pay you for 6 weeks, or is it a payout?
It's a payout.
Okay, it
Yep.
ends.
Correct. Whenever their last day physically worked, that would be their last day worked. And then right now, and under this, they would get paid out for earned but unused benefit time. Now, right now, we just pay out the vacation and the sick time. We don't pay
Is that
out,
a separate check that they get, or does that go on their last paycheck?
I believe it's usually, it's a separate check, I think, isn't it,
Okay.
Mike?
That's hourly or salary. If it's hourly, it's a separate check usually, I think, because they don't have.
Okay. Again, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That's all I had. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark, I just have a couple questions for you. On page, it's probably about page 6, county comparison, that kind of jumped out at me, that you were looking at 71 counties, and that's a big chore. I'm not sure, they don't respond the same way we would respond to them on that.
Right.
So I question whether that was a good move on that. Of the 71 counties, the salary, or the population is going from 4,200 people down up to, I think, 500 and some thousand people. It might have been a better idea to just go to 100,000, take 100,000 and look at those, and you would have brought it down to 17 counties, about 17 counties, and look at those folks and make those determinations. Of the 17, you might get a much better response rate and even higher numbers here when you're comparing it. But comparing it with a county that is has only 4,200, and we have 1,100 employees, that's just, we aren't comparing the same thing.
Right. I will let you know that, certainly all our surrounding counties, I mean, we've got responses from our region. So everything from, Brown and Fond du Lac and Outagamie and Wapaka, Waushara, Calumet. We got all of those counties, which we thought were important because regardless of size, a lot of times we are in direct competition for talent.
Absolutely. Yes.
So we did specifically target and get those counties. And you're right, then we have everything from, a Dane and a Racine to a Taylor and a, Monroe. But we tried to look at as many as we could. And Stephanie, I don't know if you have anything to add because you actually pulled some of those numbers.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make a comment on that because that's a good consideration. But I was also comparing the consultant's recommendation. So when I was doing a side-by-side comparison, so she had recommended some things and also looked at counties, comparable counties. I wanted to ensure that those counties were in there. So when I said congruence with McGrath or the consultant, that was taken into consideration. So I wanted to make sure that those counties were also included in that analysis.
Okay.
And I'd like to point out, even though we've initiated this based on recommendations of the consultant, this is our and their work. So they're the ones who really did the legwork behind this. This is really a in-house effort to present this to you today.
It's a daunting task, acquiring all that information at
Yes.
one time.
There's a lot of reading of handbooks manually.
Yes, yeah. And I'm glad to see you're doing this. I wish my employers would have been doing that when I was in the workforce because we all talked about it, but it never happened. So
Well, if you'd like to moonlight after your days as a supervisor, I could hook you up with an application.
Oh, thank you much. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and again, thank you very much for this presentation. Supervisor Wise stole some of my thunder with the counties, what counties were included. So moving on, the long-term employees of the county, this is something that I've heard from a number of long-term county employees. What is their feelings, I guess, when you had your presentations to the long-term employees? Because I hear a lot about, this is something that helps the new employees, but it doesn't really do much for the long-term employees. What are the long-term employees of the county saying about this proposal?
Well, as you can imagine, especially when we first rolled out, a lot of the rollout is an education piece because especially for long-term employees, we've only known this system that we currently have. So a big piece of it was education. And one of the things that we try to communicate to those long-term employees are that, first of all, you're going over the span of a career, under this plan, you are going to earn more total time off than under our current system. Let's say you only have a few years left, so you're not necessarily going to see the benefit of that 30-year career. You're still going to be earning more PTO each year than what you would earn in the separate bucket systems in our current plan. And again, to me, I think one of the biggest flexibilities is that instead of us dictating, you're going to have X amount of sick time and you can only use it in this way, you now have the flexibility. PTO is PTO is not vacation, PTO is not sick time, PTO is not floating holiday, PTO is not funeral leave. PTO is all of those things, any absence need that an employee would have. So a long-term employee who, let's say they have 1,000+ hours built up in sick time, they're already at the current maximum for vacation. I'd argue that it affords those employees greater flexibility to look at some of this as actually vacation time, because under the current system, we keep giving them sick time that gets put in a sick bank that they're not using, if they don't have a need for it. Now, because they're getting it all as PTO, they have some options as far as what their needs are and how they want to use the time.
Thank you. One final question here. With the 100% payout regardless of length of service and then going to the employee leaves before 1 year, no payout, is that a policy that the county board approved, seeing as how none of these, employees are under a collective bargaining agreement? Is that something that they sign right off the bat saying if I leave, you're going to pay me out all this, these days off? I guess I'm a little confused by that.
Yep, great question. We have an employee handbook. It's been a while since we've updated it, and based on some of these changes and whatnot, we'll be bringing forward next month updates to those policies. So right now, those things are spelled out in the employee handbook, but then we'd be making revisions for the board to consider in order to, make this plan happen. So we'd be revising those. I should also mention that the when an employee gets a job offer, we also spell out on a benefit summary sheet some of these things. So for instance, how we do vacation now, that's all spelled out that if you use more vacation than what you actually had earned, you'll have to pay it back at the end, things like that. But it's in our handbook.
So the employee handbook is almost I guess a contract, if you will. You're saying you're doing that on good gesture, good nature, that you're saying, hey, you signed this employee handbook that we're going to give you this time off?
Well, I would specifically say, and I think Mary Ann would agree with me, it's not a contract. And it specifically states that nothing in it's to be construed as a contract because we are at-will employees. However, it does set out the policies that the board passes regarding things like vacation, sick time, payouts, those types of things.
So the board passed the employee handbook, then essentially it's a policy of the county board?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for the presentation. I think this is really, really excellent way to position the benefits and the package and to convey what kind of culture, we really want here. I think one that's more congruent with, some of the leading employers in this field. I think it'll do a great job of balancing out against the wages that we set out earlier this year to rounding this out. So I want to ask a question right now. It feels like we have a system right now that sets up for some people, incentivizing using vacation time for sick time, right? So like if I'm an employee who doesn't plan to take a vacation and then my kid gets sick or I get sick, I don't have as much incentive to bank I don't have any incentive to bank my vacation time, but I have incentive to bank my PTO or my sick time. Is that a correct understanding?
Kind of, but not quite.
Okay.
So under our current system right now, you're incentivized to save up to 5 days of vacation. I can't save any more than that as an employee, even if I want to. Even if I've used my time responsibly and I want to save it for the next year, I can't, because after 5 days of vacation rolls over to the next calendar year, all of the other vacation I had converts into sick time.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so then, does, it feels to me like the current system also kind of creates a bottleneck at the end of the year where, right, where like, do you have a lot of people who are just like, I'm out of here, I'm not working in December because I got to burn through this time?
It does, but it also creates issues where, and I think the highway department's a great example because they may plan on taking time off at the end of the year, and then we have this crazy thing called snow that happens, and everyone's got to come in, they've got to plow roads, and then vacation days that they had planned. I mean, now they're working, they don't have an opportunity to, use that vacation. Now, in their case, we do the calendar year a little bit differently. They follow a date of hire program, but again, now that's another inconsistency that we have to roll with. But yes, those are issues that we face under our current system. And this, instead of having a kind of an arbitrary calendar date, we're just going to use how much PTO do you have? And you carry it forward with you under the process we explained tonight.
I see that as being a tremendous benefit for managers, for employees, to just create another, another flexibility that doesn't sort of force people to just get out of there. Next question, can you explain what the ELB LOA is used for? I think I missed that.
Sure. Really, we wanted to build in a little bit of a mechanism. I'll give you two examples. If we hire someone and they're a new employee, they, until they work a certain number of hours and have been with us a certain time period, they're not necessarily, they don't qualify for FMLA. So one, we wanted the ability to have some leave of absences that, while I may not be able to think of an example, it's certainly possible there might be a need for something that wouldn't qualify for FMLA, but on the surface, we would be able to tell, yeah, that would be an appropriate use. Another thing would be, who would have expected this thing called COVID-19 and all the things that we shook out there? There were all these special rules that were put in place regarding that. If we had something similar, that may not be an FMLA leave, but if suddenly an employee had a quarantine, for instance, well, that would allow us a mechanism where for quarantine time, let's say, we could open up the ELB, you could use that instead of having to use your PTO. So it's really a little bit of maybe trying to future-proof things a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's really forward thinking and appreciate that explanation. I think one of the concerns I heard was maybe an uncertainty about how that differs from FMLA, and if it was being created to push people out of the legal protections that FMLA offers. But it sounds like that's very different, and in fact, you're actually trying to, it doesn't sound like you're trying to push people out of FMLA, but create almost an expanded program of FMLA that maybe, makes more sense with 2023 and not 1970, whatever that law was probably written.
Right, and I would say too, even looking at bereavement leave, if right now, as we explained, if you took funeral leave and you needed to attend to matters, and let's say they're out of state, you need to be off more than the 3 days, or even just from a grief standpoint, you can't be at work. Under our current system, you either go unpaid or you'd use vacation time if you had it. If you have sick time, we don't allow sick time to be used for funeral leave purposes. Again, now we would be opening up, so current sick time is going to be housed in that ELB. Now we would be allowing employees to access what had been sick time for that bereavement leave.
Perfect, thank you. I think, okay, my last question or statement, I don't know, is I hear what you're saying about the cost savings, and I can see where that would be tremendous. I am struggling to see how it offsets what looks like maybe roughly an additional 4,000 or so PTO days. And I realize that there isn't actually an additional cost, right? Like if a person, I don't know, how many days are there in a year that people work, like 200? If I work 200 days and take 0 vacation, or I take 100 days of vacation and 100 days of working, it's the same like bottom line cost, but we're giving up services, right? Like if I have the 4 more PTO days, that's 4 less, that's 100, or that's whatever the math is, 32 less hours that I'm working in the, on the programs. Is that part of your calculation, or are you simply looking at like the bottom line to call this a cost neutral?
I'd submit that we're trying to do both. And what I mean by that is, and we didn't go into great detail, but on one of the slides we talked about the, one hire fills 229 vacancies. So using Parkview as an example, we have all these vacancies right now at Parkview. And on one hand, I could hear the question from you saying, well, if we're having a hard time staffing Parkview right now, and we give employees some additional days off, isn't that going to make our staffing worse? Well, the intent and the idea and what we hope to accomplish is when I can hire now one more person that we can't hire right now, well, they're filling 229 shifts. And those 229 shifts really offset a lot of, quote unquote, a few extra days that other employees are working or taking off. And obviously, the more employees that we can hire and bring in, we're going to be able to, the intent is we can fill a lot more positions and we'll actually increase our productivity because we're not going to have as many vacancies.
I think I just don't have as much trust in the magic there, and would really appreciate seeing some actuals from the past few years about how much, how many vacation days aren't able to be clawed back and that sort of thing.
So when it comes to math, the numbers don't lie. So it's nice to see that when we look at upon hire in the current system right now, because if we're worried about cost, I would be looking at, well, how many days off are we offering to current employees right now upon hire? And then what are we going to be offering for PTO? So under the current system, we're offering 2 weeks of vacation, 8 sick days, and a relatively about an average of 2 to 3 floating holidays. So that equals, like Jamie said, 21 days. We were also recommended to increase our sick time to four sick days. That's not going to solve half the problems that PTO is, but that brings that number, if we do 4 additional days of sick days, that brings that number to 25. We're recommending 25 days of PTO upon hire. That's where that number is coming from. So that helps with the cost.
Yeah, I mean, I see that, but it's, we're still stacking multiple variables that actually have like other outcomes to them,
Sure.
too, and attributing it all to this one cost savings piece. And I just don't think that's really capturing the fullness of what this system is supposed to be telling us. And I think some of the assumed savings have already sort of been pitched to us as part of the compensation plan as well. So I would really like to see what kind of what actuals we've had over the past few years for those losses in the leakage in the current plan, because that will really help me understand how the numbers actually come out.
Sure. I was only able to quantify seven months with the time that we had, so I can look at that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Habeck, when reviewing this packet before the meeting, the big number that stood out to me is that 27% of the entire workforce is going to be eligible to retire within the next 3 years. And you mentioned something about future proofing. One of the things that I see, and I've read some reports from, I think, Forbes and CNBC, mainly centering around how younger workers who are entering the workforce that we hope to attract, that are trickling in, are not just looking at raw dollars, they're looking at benefits as well. And they have a tendency to job hop, and we're not just going to see the same level of dedication to a single firm, single government entity over their entire careers. So if this helps keep us competitive, you can count me as being on board, because I think that's a massively important thing, as our workforce inevitably will have to get younger over time.
Thank you. I would point out in that regard, too, one of the things that our current system has is employees wait 5 years to get that next week of vacation. Under this plan, one of the reasons we designed it where every 2 years you get a couple more days of PTO is that we think from that retention piece, I have however many days now, and suddenly I'm not waiting 5 years to get more. And, I'll get another couple days in 2 more years. Now I'm another year beyond that. Now I wait 1 more year to get a couple more days. And so we think that's going to play to what that younger generation is looking for in benefits as well.
Sure, and if it streamlines us and saves us money, I'm all for it. Thank you.
Yes, I have a question because of the Parkview. Those people don't work a Monday through Friday. So, do they, if they want to take a calendar week vacation, are they going to get charged 40 hours? Or do they get charged possibly 48 hours? You know where I'm going with this, I hope? Yes, she does.
For any department, and Parkview is not the only one. I mean, we've got dispatchers and sheriff and, you know, some other employees that don't work a traditional Monday through Friday schedule. They could have varying amounts of time. Dispatchers, for instance, they work 4 days in a row. So for them, 4 days would be 32 hours. We have part-time staff throughout the county. They're going to have to use however much time they're scheduled for, you know, to take off. But again, PTO, since you're earning it based on the hours that you work, those part-time employees, if they're picking up more hours, they're going to earn more PTO. So I guess the answer to your question is it's really department specific and it's schedule specific. They're not necessarily disadvantaged because they have to work a weekend. For them, it's a work day just like any other day for any other employee, and they have to follow their internal, you know, rules as far as how they request time off and how that gets awarded. I don't know if that really helps answer what you're asking.
Yeah, not really. If a person says, I want to take calendar week number 32, whatever that lies in, that's a whole week. We all look at a week off as we left Friday night and we get the next Monday, right up to the following Monday, we got to be back to work. That's a full week. But if you're working in some of these jobs, you want to take a whole week, you might have 2-3 days off, or you might have to work on the weekend.
Right.
Does that take away from your, does it going to cost you 48 hours compared to 40 hours?
It's going to cost you however much time you're requesting off, whether it's 20 hours, 40 hours, 48 hours, however much time you're requesting off, that's going to cost you that much in PTO time. And that's no different than what we have right now with vacation. You know, if someone were to be scheduled, you know, 6 days in a row and they wanted to take 6 days off, they're going to have to use 6 days. If they're scheduled 3 days in a row and they wanted to take all 3 off, they'd have to use 3 days. So this doesn't change that at all.
Well, yeah, okay. But what I'm trying to get at is, when a person takes a week's vacation, it's a calendar week. Their spouse may work someplace else, but it may cost them 48 hours because they were scheduled to work on the following weekend.
So I think I know what you're trying to say. So you're saying those people will work 48 hours versus a 40, and it's going to cost me 8 hours extra, correct?
Correct. To take off from work. A week's vacation costs somebody at
it will cost
Parkview
the same.
48 hours.
Correct, and it will cost the same.
All right, then my next question is, I believe you probably have forced overtime.
It depends on the department.
Okay, can they
Yep.
say, guess what, I'm taking some of my hours, see ya?
That's a great question. So this is something that was brought up by department heads, supervisors. How do I schedule? Can someone just call me 5 minutes before their shift and say, I want to use PTO? No. You still need to follow the appropriate measures to request time off and to be approved time off as well. Just because we're moving to PTO, it does not mean that you can arbitrarily call in sick for whatever reason and we just have to approve it. You still need to abide by your department and county policy for your call-in procedures. That is not changing. That's a great question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark, can you explain how this multiplier, the slide PTO new proposal has the same thing? I'm trying to figure out how the multiplier works across the board? Do you use it with max years, or use it with earned days, or how, and what does that drop you through to the next level?
All right, let's pull it up here on the screen.
One more back, I think. Yeah, there, yeah, there, right there.
Okay, so on this slide, let's say that an employee has been with the county for 5 years. So we take a look at if an employee's been here 5 or 6 years, they would be on pace over the course of a year to earn 29 days of PTO. Part of our partnering with the information technology team, I need to give them a shout out as well. They've been very helpful in making this possibility. They've created these multipliers, so when you take the annual hours worked times the multiplier, you'll end up with 29 days, say at the end of 12 months. So then when someone is here 7 years, and now they're going to earn 31 days, their multiplier increases a little bit, because now, again, every pay period, they're going to earn just a little bit more time, but over the course of 12 months, now that 7-year employee will have earned 31 days. So that multiplier is almost like kind of the wage equivalent for paid time off. That's how much they're earning per hour. Does that answer your question?
Oh, I see. You're using it against the number of years to come across with the number of paid days.
Correct.
All right?
Yep. So based on the number of years, they'll get a different multiplier, and that multiplier increases the longer someone's been with the county. And then as that multiplier increases, they'll earn more days over the course of a year.
The relationship between the multiplier and the years worked
Yes.
is what you're really working on to get the
Yes.
days. To get the days.
Yes.
And I just want to point out, when we did employee presentations, I did put up an example of step-by-step, this is your multiplier, plug it in, and went through it that way, so employees got the chance to do it side by side with us for their real-world examples.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's stay on that page. And the proposal says that you can accumulate PTO until you've reached 480 hours. So how long does it take one to get to 480 hours?
That depends how fast, what accrual rate you're at, and years of service.
Well, let's assume that one takes 21 days, right? Uses their 3 weeks of time annually, and that means that approximately 4 days worth would be banked for the next year, and then you earn another 25 more, and then as each year. So I'm trying to figure out how many years you'd have to be here to get to your maximum.
You would need to earn 60 days of PTO to hit 480 hours. If you were a brand new employee, you would earn 77 days at the end of year 3. So it would take you less than 3 years to get 60 days.
Thank you.
And then obviously, the longer you're here, the shorter that time would be, because you're earning more days per year.
And is that with the assumption that you are not using days?
Yeah, that's just total earned.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you. So we talked about how this would be a January 1st start date, and it's at that date that everyone would start with 0.
Because there's transition rules?
Yeah, I'm gonna get there, but everyone technically starts with 0.
In some
And-
respects, there's some asterisks that we might get to.
And we talked about the ability for current employees to advance days. So when you say, when we're talking about advancing days, I understand that those are days that they've earned from previous years.
No, that
No?
would, no, that would be time that they have not earned. So let's say we hired
Okay.
someone this year, and they're expecting to get their full allotment of time on January 1st of next year, and that being 21 days. They may have already booked a vacation, a cruise, whatever, come January or February of next year. Well, suddenly, hey, this HR team had this crazy idea to change systems, and now they're going to start, and they're not going to have necessarily that vacation available on January 1st. That's where we'll come in and we'll advance them up to 10 days. And that 10 days is equivalent to the 2 weeks of vacation that they would have earned under the current system, that they would have potentially used to plan out, hey, I'm going on a cruise, I'm going to use 5 days of my vacation that I think I'm going to have on January 1st.
Okay, so thank you for clearing that up
Yes.
for me. And then does that mean that they essentially start with a negative balance in their PTO account and they have to earn that time back?
They'll have to earn that time back, and that's really not any different than what we do right now, because that same employee who is thinking that, hey, come January 1st, I get 21 days, really, they haven't earned those 21 days until the end of the calendar year. You know, so that's what we mean when an employee uses more time than they've earned. They get those 21 days on January 1st. They leave us in March. If they've used all that time, they haven't earned it yet. They've only earned a fraction of it. And that's what we're not always able to pull back when an employee leaves. I don't think employees think of it, that they're, in essence, in the whole 21 days on January 1st right now, but that's in essence how it is, because they're being advanced the time up front. So we would, for the transition year, we would continue that.
Okay, so we're talking in terms of January 1st. What happens for the person who gets hired in October?
Mm-hmm. Well, right now, if we hire someone, let's say the example that Stephanie gave, that person that she made a job offer to probably isn't going to start till November. Under our current system, they're going to get prorated 2 weeks of vacation, which is going to come out to maybe a day at the most upon their day to hire. Under this plan, at the very lowest level, at 25 days over the course of the year, they'll be earning almost 1 day off every pay period. So yes, they're going to start without a balance because they haven't, just like they won't get a paycheck the first day they walk in, but they'll begin earning immediately.
So in essence, they'd have their 25 days in October of 2025. Does it follow their hire date, or does it follow the calendar year? Because we seem to be using those two interchangeably at the moment.
They will, we always count the year of hire as the first year, calendar year, okay? So if we hire someone right now in October, 2023 is considered year one. We don't do a from your hire date to your hire date, okay? We look at calendar year. So someone hired in 2023, come 2024, that's year two for the employee. And we wouldn't be looking to change that.
So they would still have their 25 days by the end of year two then?
Yes, and because they're going to earn it in essence per paycheck, they will say that full 12 months, they get hired October 15th. By the next October 15th, yes, they will have earned, say, the 25 days, but they're going to continue earning on top of that. We're really not following a calendar year anymore other than counting years of service.
Okay, thank you for that. And somewhere in the comments from employees that I heard from, and I think I read it in the frequently asked questions, that this policy as proposed still allows the HR department the ability to offer different benefits to new hires. Could you talk about that, please?
Sure. Let's move to last year, because last year we had not finished the compensation study. We had not changed grades. We had not reslotted employees. And part of the reason we did the entire compensation study is we knew that wages were not in line with market. One of the tools we have at our disposal in HR when we're trying to attract candidates is we prorate time. So maybe based on an employee's start date, maybe they should, under proration, earn 4 days of vacation for the remainder of the year. As part of the job offer, we may offer a little bit, we may offer them 7 days, for instance. It's part of that negotiation. And we had to do that more, I think, in the past because we knew our wages were not as in line with market as what they should be. And we also knew from 2 compensation studies that our benefits aren't either. With this system, I would argue we still want that flexibility for that possibility. Again, we want to try to future-proof things, but because we're providing a greater benefit, both in total days as well as the flexibility piece, I really think where we're landing, we're not going to have a trouble filling our positions offering the 25 PTO days to employees. Do I still want to have that as a tool available if needed? Yes, but I don't necessarily think we're going to find an immediate need because of how aggressive this system is for accrual rates. Does that answer your question?
It does, and I'm thinking if that were the case, if you were negotiating and time off was on the table, then why wouldn't you advance? Why wouldn't the offer be to advance that new employee days, just like what is being proposed for current employees, so that everybody is treated the same?
And we've talked about that, and we certainly could do that. One of our concerns with, in some ways it's probably 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but one of the concerns we have with advancing time is right now every person we hire right now, we advance time to. Everyone that gets hired is advanced time. We're having people overuse their benefit time and leaving on a short turnaround. That's where it's costing us, because we're letting them use that time and they don't work enough hours to pay us back what they owe us. And so that's where some of that cost savings comes in, and that's one of the reasons why we'd like to get away from that if we can. And we've tried to make the PTO accrual rate aggressive enough that we don't necessarily, it's not taking someone 3 months to earn a couple days off.
We did look at this when we were, I'm bad at the microphone. We did look at this when we were looking at PTO proposals of advancing time. We looked at the current models that other counties are on for PTO as well as private sector. It's a common practice that you don't offer upon hire, and you earn as you go. There were some private organizations, you don't get any paid time off until 90 days, 60 to 90 days.
And so that kind of transitions to my next question, because you've spent a lot of time telling us about the buckets of time: vacation time, sick time, bereavement time, and how Winnebago County is not competitive in those areas. And so I'm sitting here wondering why it is that we're creating this new system that creates a lot of anxiety for the folks that have been employed here a long time, when perhaps we could have eliminated the buckets, adjusted the time accordingly, and then also adjusted the policies that are concerning to us at the same time, versus creating this whole new system.
I submit for your consideration that we, in essence, are doing that in that we are consolidating buckets, we are consolidating how time is earned. One of the challenges that we have when we talk about consistency or inconsistency, whether it's the amount of vacation that's earned or floating holiday, we are all over the board throughout the county. And if we were to, employees that right now get 7 floating holidays, if we standardized it and we said everyone's going to get 4 floating holidays, well, now we've created winners and losers. We have those who get more than 4 floating holidays right now, and we're now taking away from those employees. We really try to come up with a system that we're not, that we're not taking things away, and on the flip side is being seen as a benefit to employees. If we keep all of our same individual buckets, even if we try to make it consistent, there's going to be employees that have less than what they currently have, and that's not something that we wanted to broach, and we wanted to try to standardize. But again, we want to solve consistency issues, ease administration of it. We want to open up and provide greater flexibility. We talked about sick time. If we just gave everyone 4 more days of sick time, that doesn't necessarily help with the flexibility piece, or employees who, may have a different need than sick time. So that's really why we thought changing the system. Plus, we know that we've had a lot of counties already make the transition, and there's a lot of interest out there in a system like this. So again, because we have so many variations, implementing something new is something that really I think now would be the time to, because we can get all the advantage of it without creating disadvantages for our employees.
And one last question, do we have a work from home policy?
We do have a telecommute policy. It's not germane specifically to PTO. I mean, it's separate. But yes, there is telecommuting opportunities, but it varies based on department, position, those types of things. Really the need of the department, the type of service that's being provided.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no further questions.
Supervisor Wise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark, I'm sitting here in this esteemed room right now, and I'm wondering, I haven't heard the word jury duty at all. What is the policy on jury duty, and how is it affected by this policy?
Jury duty would not be impacted by this. What we do right now for jury duty is if an employee is summoned to jury duty during their work hours, they serve as a juror without loss of pay. So if they receive a jury fee, that gets turned into the county, so they don't make extra for being on jury duty, but we don't require them to use paid time off or anything like that. That's part of their civic duty, so we just pay them if they're doing that on their work hours.
Perfect, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Supervisor Bender.
Just a comment, the reason why the holidays vary so much is that we used to have union contracts throughout the county, and everybody negotiated their own contract, and if you work basically 24/7, 365 days a year, normally you didn't get as many holidays, you got more floating holidays, because holidays paid time and a half. So they basically gave them floating holidays so they didn't have to pay the time and a half. Now he's trying to standardize it, and if everybody gets 10 paid holidays, they're all going to get paid equal. And if you actually look at Parkview right now, they're 14 and a half RNs, LPNs short. They're 51.3 CNAs short. They're 9 hospitality aides short, and they're 2 food service and nutrition. So they have a shortage of 75.8 people at Parkview, and that's why we only have like under 100 residents, 98 residents, I believe, there. And if this will help to fill those vacancies and we can get that back up to a 165-bed nursing home, that's our goal. We owe it to Winnebago County to basically have room for our elderly and people in need. So I applaud for the effort that they put into this. Everybody's going to gain. The people that are going to get the 10 paid holidays are going to get time and a half on 3 holidays they didn't get before, and a long-term employee is going to pick up 3 days, And if you're a highway department, you're gonna lose maybe 6 days because they work 10-hour days and they're only gonna get 8 hours holiday pay, but they're gonna get 24 hours more than they had before. So they're gonna come up with a year where Good Friday falls, where they would have had 3 10-hour days. They're gonna have 18 more hours, and when they have the 2 10-hour days, they're still gonna have 20 more hours next year than they had this year. So I think it's a win-win for everybody, and hopefully we can get some employees.
Thank you. And I want to thank you three, but I just want to put my 2 cents worth here. There was a lot of emails that went out, and hopefully, I believe I heard all three of you say this isn't the final one, that you'll be going back and you'll be looking at these. And if anyone wants to talk to you, if a long-term person comes out, because it always seems like the short person will negotiate with them. But what about one that's been here for quite a while? Are you going to negotiate with that person at all or not?
The idea with PTO is to transition everyone to PTO, not change, not reslot like we did with wages. The negotiation really is intended to be a tool for recruitment, but again, because we're going to be offering such a better benefit than what we had, I'm not anticipating a need to be deviating, anytime soon. So we've run a lot of scenarios with employees to explain, because there's questions, certainly, and we've answered a lot of those questions and walking people through, here's what you would get if this passes. And we've gotten a lot of positive responses.
As long as you're willing to talk to them, that's all
Absolutely.
that I ask.
Yep,
so.
and I've gotten some emails from supervisors, either including them back on answers that employees have sent you questions about. We've gotten a lot of feedback from employees, verbally, written. All of us have been, I think, very responsive, trying to, this isn't, passing it is only one piece of success. Educating the employees, helping them understand a new system, helping them understand why this is a benefit and how it can positively impact them, that's part of the whole, our work as well.
Well, I thank you three very much.
Thank you.
Next thing up will be our zoning report. First one is report number 001, East St. Prix, Town of Neenah, Supervisor Nussbaum. So let me get you up here. Well, right here. Nussbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for report number 1.
And it's seconded by Supervisor Flom. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Mandatory ordinance number 10-00123, rezoning from A2 General Agriculture to R1 Rural Residential for tax parcel number 010031502. Supervisor Nussbaum.
I move for a mandatory ordinance number 10-00123.
Seconded by Supervisor Flom. Not seeing any discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Resolution number 27010-2023, awarding the sale of $9,900,000 general obligation promissory notes. Supervisor Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to introduce Justin Fisher in giving the general information for the general obligation promissory notes that we have passed in P&F.
Do you want to make a motion to at least get it on the floor, and then he can give his information?
I'd like to make a motion. Resolution number 270-102-2023.
Second, motion made and seconded. The floor is all yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great to see everyone. This is really a follow-up to the meeting that we had last month where we went through the financing details. We went out to the market today, and it's been a challenge since last month, since we last spoke. after we met, the Fed Chairman Powell came out and said that, indicated that rates would be higher for longer. Well, that really triggered a rise in interest rates over the last 30 days. We've also seen what's going on overseas. So there was a little bit of a flight to quality there where interest rates came back down. But as days go by, economic data continues to come out that is better than projected, causing rates to continue to rise. So even in this challenging market, I have some pretty good news to share with you, because I think the sale went very well, all things considered, in the challenging market that we're in these days. So in front of you, there's a presentation packet. I'll run through it real quick here. So this is a general obligation promissory notes in the amount of $9,900,000. It's going to close November 9th of 2023. Maturities April 1, 2024 to 2033. It's called first interest payment April 1 of 2024. And the great thing about this is it is callable, meaning you can refinance it or pay it off on October 1 of 2030 or any date thereafter, which is great. The Moody's rating, which myself, Paul, Mike, and others were part of that call where we go through the financials of the county, talk about what's been going on in the county, developments, fund balance, etc. They affirmed the strong AA1 bond credit rating, which is there's only one notch higher that you can achieve. And honestly, it's about as high as you can get based on the characteristics of the county. And when you think about, well, what can we do? We've talked about this in the past. It really comes down to metrics that aren't necessarily in your control. And that's primarily around wealth of the county. So you're doing great financially, and the Moody's rating report is at the back of the page, or back of this booklet, that I'll kind of run through real quickly at the end here. So the final interest rate on the financing was a 4.23%. So even with all those challenges, excellent interest rate that you received. I mean, you think about mortgage rates right now, over 7.5%. The state lending program is at 6.25%. So, very, very, and the 10-year treasury right now, just in the last month, has gone up over 50 basis points, or 0.5%. That's at 4.85. So very, very good news here. And you also had some good local bank participation in this bond sale. Nicolay, National Bank, U.S. Bank also participated, which was great to see in this debt issuance. So on page 3 here, this is the overall financing plan. I'm not going to go through this in detail like we did last time, but it continues to follow the plan. We're hitting the target of reducing the debt service mill rate by 2 cents, which was the objective. You're really set up nicely for the future. For if you need to borrow it in the future, you're going to be layering it in at a very incremental amount. No large tax impacts to the taxpayers based on the certain growth factors that we have in here. So the county is continuing to be set up very nicely long-term to be able to fund your capital projects if you so choose in the future. And then the last few pages here, this is the Moody's rating report. Like I said, and I've probably told you this in the past, this is your good bedtime reading material here, but it really highlights why the county receives the strong bond credit rating that you do. Healthy reserves, you have some of the lowest debt for your county your size in the state, and the valuation continues to, for the county, continues to grow at a pretty substantial rate year over year, which is helping the rating as well. So congratulations, and I welcome any questions if there are any.
I don't see any questions, so all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Well, I think the ayes have it, but we'll do a roll call vote just to make sure. Well, we got to do that. If somebody turns, I didn't do it one time and somebody changed their mind. When you're talking about $9 million, you've got to make sure it's all done right. And it's 30-4, that passes. Okay, resolution number 271-10-2023, authority to execute an agreement with Wisconsin Sign Company LLC for the purpose of installing a new marquee sign on Sunnyview Exposition property following removal of the existing marquee sign by Winnebago County. Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move resolution number 271-102023 for the Sunnyview marquee sign.
Motion made and seconded. Supervisor Swan.
I just had a few questions on the lease. The rates that we're charging Wisconsin Sign Company, do we use market comparables to establish those monthly rents?
Sorry.
How do we know what to charge them?
So those market rates are rates that they utilize. So they do these signs with other municipalities as well. Another example is down in Hartford, the city of Hartford. So that's where these rates are based off of.
Okay.
It's a unique situation because we're also utilizing it as our own Sunnyview Expo sign. So it's a little different than a normal, just like a billboard getting put up.
Okay, and the increases in the rents are about 2% per year, right? 10% over the
It was,
term of the lease?
it goes it's $250 per month for year 1 and 2, and then year 3, $400, and then it goes up to $550 for years 4 through 10. So it's a little more than 2%.
How much more? I mean, what is it?
Ah, shoot, I left my calculator in the back, I apologize.
Roughly.
I don't know if you.
400.
From year 2 to 3.
3.1, something like that.
So for instance, from year 2 to 3, just some rough math, it's over 40% because it goes from 3,000 for the year to 4,800 for the year. Now, without being able to take it in, because obviously year 1 and 2 are the same price, and then year 3 it goes up, and then years 4 through 10 it's the same. I'd have to take a look at that from a full
But
10 year.
40% over 5 years, right?
From year 2 to 3.
2 to 3.
Just as an example, because then from year 3 to 4 it goes up again.
60% over the first 2 years.
Okay. What is an annual rate roughly over the whole term?
Annual rate?
An annual rate of increase. Average over the term.
Okay, 60, let me just figure this. It's about 10% a year.
Okay. I'm satisfied with that. What about the 10% participation in advertising revenue? Is that typical?
So we negotiated the 10% that we could have 10% of I mean, normally when someone puts a sign, they're obviously advertising, they're paying for the space, and then they're advertising based off of whoever pays for the advertisement. So we negotiated that we obviously as a county want to be able to advertise our events at the Sunnyview Expo because it's replacing an existing sign that has a marquee that hasn't worked in years,
Right.
that used to advertise the events.
But is that participation rate typical of what a similar, landlord could expect?
There wasn't a lot of examples other than the city of Hartford to
Probably
go off
not.
of because it was a little unique.
But they were 10% too?
They had some as well in their contract, and that was 10%.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Belleville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple things in regards to the sign design. In our last meeting, at the top next to the Wave logo, it does say Sunnyview Expo Center, so that will happen. And then the second thing is we have the 2 poles here to hold the sign up, and that's very reminiscent of that sign that's been there for about 30 years. And there is a stipulation that we have that it'll be, I want it to be, the whole thing would be rock or brick or stone or brick, but I think we compromised at 8 to 10 feet of stone or brick on those poles, and I think that'll be aesthetically pleasing and it'll make it look a little bit more modern. So just kind of keep that in your mind of how that will actually look. Thank you.
Supervisor Powers.
No?
Supervisor Gabbard.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this, Adam. So under the following provisions, item 1, Town of Oshkosh issues a conditional use permit for the sign. Have you, or are you going to pretty soon apply for that?
So I got all the information. So that's the company that's going to be leasing the land. That's their responsibility to go for a variance with the town.
Okay.
And also, so I got the information over. I met with Carol, the zoning administrator with the town of Oshkosh. Got everything that they'll need to do. Pass that on to the owner, and then also I reached out to the DOT, and there's a short application, but that fits all the criteria for the DOT.
Perfect, thank you.
Maybe when them poles come down, maybe you can take and cut them and get that archway up that's supposed to be up umpteen years. Just had to put that in there too. Not seeing any other questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Carried. Resolution number 272-10-2023 to name Conference Room 120 in the David W. Albrecht Administration Building, the Susan T. Ertmer Conference Room. Supervisor Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of resolution number 272-10-2023.
Second. Motion is made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Carried. Resolution number 273-10-2023 authorize the execution of a lease agreement between Winnebago County and the United States excuse me, Department of Agriculture. Supervisor Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of resolution number 273-10-2023.
Second.
Just before can I say a few words on this?
Yes.
Just to give everybody an update, this is something we worked on the facilities committee, I would say, for over 2 years, and Director Elders in the back, and done a superb job, back and forth with the USDA, and finally got this done. But this is something that we worked on and talked about on the facilities committee for, I believe, over, all of 2 years. So, thank you.
Supervisor Defferding.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be voting no on this only simply for the principle that I wish for the United States Department of Agriculture to be completely abolished. Thank you.
So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Nay. All right, the ayes have it. All right. Resolution number 275-10-2023 approving $250,000 from the Spirit Funds government. Wait a minute, am I missing one here? 274, I'm sorry. 274-10-2023 authorized 5-year cooperative service agreement between Winnebago County and Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and the United States Department of Agriculture and Animal Plant Health Inspection. Supervisor Farre, no wonder he caught that so quick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of resolution number 274-10-2023.
And that was seconded by Supervisor Schellinger. Remember, use your lights. Not seeing any discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. Nay. Carried. Resolution number 275-10-2023 approving $250,000 from the Spirit Funds Government Identity Community Project category to renovate the Amro Area Community Center. Supervisor Vice Chairman Farre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of resolution number 275-10-2023.
Seconded by Supervisor Powers. Okay, Supervisor Swan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we have people here from that are representatives of Armo Community Center and
Yes, she's here.
the seller?
Lynn, would you want to come up to the front?
I say yes. You sure? Wait till you hear what I have to say.
Beth, I'll ask you also to come up because you have their plan. Beth, if you also want to come up, because you got what they had written up to give to the Spirit Fund. Okay, Supervisor Swan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to just say before I dive into this a little bit, I recognize the need for this, for serving the elderly and for providing a facility. That's very important. I recognize that. Just, my questions just have to do with, normal due diligence on a transaction and a rehab project like this to make sure that the county taxpayers are making the right decision, okay? So when you purchased the property from the previous owner, was that property listed on the market actively for sale?
Yes,
What was the asking price?
240,000.
Okay,
Actually, it was 250. He reduced it to 240.
okay, so it was on the open market and, everyone could see it.
Yes.
Basically, it was out there. That's good, okay. So basically, you paid almost the asking price for it.
Yes. We purchased on land contract.
How did the seller determine what price to ask for that property?
It was, I think, where he was coming from was he was looking for the amount of money that he still owed on it that he wanted to use to build a new building for storage for his business.
Okay. So this property, let me ask you this first. Did you consider building a new facility on a vacant land parcel?
We did, but there was only one open piece of ground within the city limits.
Okay.
We looked at it. There was a lot of underground utilities involved on that piece of property
Okay.
that we determined would be more, to be blunt, hassle to deal with
Okay.
than what we could even look at expense-wise in the long run.
Okay, and when, did you look at what a new building would cost? as
We were
well?
told it would run between $400,000 and $500,000.
Okay. So you didn't think you could really find a site for the building, but, maybe at least you considered the new building construction. That's
Yes.
important. Now, the property that you purchased is assessed at $68,000 total, right? $22 a square foot. By my calcs, 3,000 square foot building roughly?
The blueprints actually say 6,000.
6,000, the assessor had it at 3,024, it's more than that?
Yep,
It's-
I'm just telling you what I'm reading off the blueprints. It
Okay.
says 6,000.
Okay. What, did you buy 6,000 square feet?
We bought the entire building.
No, okay. That was existing 6,000.
That's what
okay.
I'm reading, yes.
All right, well, that's better. Are you confident that you can hold the budget with the construction project? You said 485 plus.
We do have, it's very tight, I'll be very honest. We went back and forth about how much we wanted to request from the Spirit Fund. And initially, we were told that it was to be a match request. And we knew that if we asked for anything above 250, that we honestly probably couldn't match anything above 250. Our fundraising and our donations, thus far, since we started fundraising in September of last year, we have raised approximately $90,000. We have spent a good deal of that on our mortgage payments, our initial down payment on the building, and permits for the state, permits, building permits for the city. We have purchased materials. They've been ordered for the framing. We have paid for The underground plumbing, that part of the work has already been done. And now we're kind of at a standstill. I do have another grant request that is in the process of being approved contingent on this
Okay.
decision.
Did this property go on the market with the knowledge that you were looking for a facility and that ARPA funds might be requested?
I am not aware of that.
You don't know that? Okay.
No.
You weren't in contact with the seller though before,
I was not, no.
before he listed it?
No.
Okay. And,
At the time we looked at the building, that was the only property in town
Okay.
that we thought
All right.
would even be feasible.
but he did sell it to you on land contract,
Yes.
30,000 down, 7.5% interest.
Yes.
Gave you a break on the down payment, but the interest rate is market.
Mhm.
6-year term, 900 a month, going to 1,500 a month in 6 years?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to point out that this purchase for 240 is, 2.5 times assessed value.
Yes.
That's a huge amount for a steel building that you want to use for this kind of use. It's a conversion from really a repair shop to a, to a public community service center.
Yes.
So this was your only alternative you felt in Omro that could be used for this?
Yes. We were refused to even go to negotiations with the city with the old building.
Yeah, I know that. I know that. And I'm old enough to remember when they rehabbed that building. That was at least 25 years ago, I think, wasn't it?
1995.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I appreciate your time. Thanks for answering my questions.
You might have some more if you'll just stay there, please. Supervisor Zastera.
Okay, thank you. So, as far as this building goes, who is going to be overseeing this?
The community center board.
Okay. And as far as you know, are there any other community centers? I have the list from before, but I guess I have some concerns about, do you consider yourself a nonprofit?
We are a nonprofit, yes.
Okay. All right. That's all I have.
Supervisor Dowling.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions specifically for you. I do have concerns about this, though, including the fact that there is no requirement for the Omro Area Community Center to keep their building after the renovations. This idea was brought up during the ARPA meeting by the county executive and was shot down. There's nothing here written that any percentage of future sales needs to be paid back to the county. That is also a concern of mine. During the ARPA presentation at our special orders meeting on September 5th, I specifically asked the following: do you think we should ask for all financial records? That would be prudent, right? The answer I received in regarding for asking for financial records was this: yes, absolutely. We're not asking for it at first, instead of making somebody bring all these people to fill out a survey for projects we may never fund. That made sense to me. It implied that before moving anything forward, financial records would be provided and scrutinized. Clearly, things have moved forward with the intent to fund this project, but we still do not have financial records. I tried to be proactive about it. I filed an open records request asking for the financial information. I did that about 2 weeks ago, and unfortunately I was told that the documents were never procured. So here we are, moving forward without the documents. Because of the lack of financial records that have been provided and the fact that this was prioritized before the needs of our county departments, I'm not saying that this should not be funded, but I move to lay this on the table until all county funding requests have been prioritized by the ARPA committee and moved forward by the county board.
Motion made and seconded to lay this on the table. Supervisor Bender on laying it on the table. Supervisor Hanson.
Not on the motion, no.
Supervisor Stafford.
Yes, on the motion, I would like clarification. I believe laying on the table means during this specific meeting
I apologize.
Yes, it is. It says set aside temporarily.
versus delaying to a different time.
I'm so sorry. I'm not feeling well. Oh, can I have my microphone on, please? I'm so sorry. I would like to rephrase my statement to delay. Is that correct? Until postpone until the other county identified projects have been considered and moved to the county board.
Postponed to a certain time?
Sure, sure.
Let's say what time, specifically.
Let's see, let's see here. The new board is voted in on April 2nd, so I'll say April 2nd, 2024.
Vice Chairman Fari.
I was just going to clarify your motion. I think that's been done. When you lay something on the table, it takes the majority of the board to take it off the table. I assume you want to lay it over to a date certain, which you're stating is April? Thank you.
Supervisor Schellinger.
Thank you. I would just suggest that we make the date a date that the board is scheduled to meet, because otherwise we have to have a special meeting on April 2nd. And that would be, if your intention is for the new board to deal with this, the new board would not have been, would have been elected, but not sworn in yet.
I do not have the 2024 dates available. I would be willing to, let's see here. I don't have any 2024 dates available. Do we have a March date set for 2024?
You could also definitely postpone.
Sure.
Which probably, you know, there is an ARPA meeting scheduled at the end of this week on Friday.
Correct.
And my understanding is that the commission is going to be going through all of the outstanding requests. Now, whether they can get through all of that, you know, I tend to doubt it on that Friday, but just so the county board knows, this is, I mean, we have a meeting in 3 days.
Yes.
March 19th.
Do you, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
It'd be March 19th is the.
If you wanted this board, it would be March 19th would be the last day.
March 19th, 2024 would be this board.
Supervisor Eisen. The date they just said is March 19th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a point of order.
Yes, sir.
It seems to me if the maker of the motion wants to defer a decision on this particular resolution, this particular allocation of money, that's an indeterminate choice, because we don't know when all of those other funding projects will come before this county board. My suggestion is that this be deferred to a date certain, or they can defer it indefinitely. But you can't leave the decision of time open.
They did. They said March 3rd.
Yep. March 19th.
Oh, March 19th. I'm sorry. I thought they said the 3rd. Yes.
If I could just, a point of clarification.
Yes.
The financial information was apparently faxed or emailed to all of the county board supervisors this afternoon, late this afternoon, after the county received the material. This was not, apparently it came in, as you said, this afternoon.
I have a question for you. Does the county even keep records like that, tax records on that?
No, we don't, no. In
So-
response to Supervisor Dowling's request, I had a 13-page application, and that was the material that I was told we had. But again, it came at 1:38 this afternoon that in fact there were additional materials, and as soon as that happened, they were emailed to all of the county board supervisors.
I don't have.
And I believe, just so you, and you probably, I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, but I mean, there are the tax returns from 2018 through 2021.
Supervisor Haran?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that we have to have these funds, if I'm not mistaken, not dispersed, but identified as to the project by December 2024. Am I correct?
Go ahead, your mic's on.
Yes. Supervisor Haran, the Spirit Fund is created with money that was originally provided under ARPA and subject to the ARPA deadlines, but because we actually declared our use of the money to be replacement of revenue and used for general governmental purposes such as salaries, that relieved us from many of those deadlines. It's money in our account subject only to the will of the county board at this point, although the board has expressed an intention to use the money for purposes consistent with the ARPA purposes. That doesn't include any of the timelines or deadlines that would be involved. So we have at least one project already extending well past the federal deadlines, but that doesn't matter to us. As far as the federal government is concerned, we've completed our ARPA funding documentation.
Okay, thank you for that. My next question is going to be specifically, is there a timeline that and from what I'm hearing you say, no, we can not spend this money until 3,000 if we so choose.
If the board so chooses, that's true in my opinion, but I don't sense that's the will of the board to wait for any great number of years, but it is the board's decision to make.
Supervisor Challenger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question for the director: if we wait till March, what kind of challenges does that create for you? I know you mentioned a matching grant that was maybe reliant on this decision, but could you walk us through what kind of constraints that might put you under?
If we do not receive the ARPA monies, I can essentially say that it will permanently close the center, and we will have to lose everything that we've gained in the last year. We'll lose our programming. The programming that we have planned for 2024 will not begin.
Is that true if this resolution were passed in March? I mean, essentially, if you don't have this money until March, do you close down before that?
We rely on the programs that we have. We have struggled this past year. At the current time, we only have active exercise programs going on. What we relied on in the past was not only the exercise programs, we had rentals, we had churches that leased the big room in the former building. That was like $3,000 a year for one church, $1,800 a year for another church, $1,000 a year for the third church. There were private rentals. Different organizations would pay a certain lease or rental fee for room usage. This building is going to be different. It's much smaller, so we've had to think outside of the box. Our fundraising has increased. We have a fundraising committee now. We've determined that we have to have a major fundraiser every month of the year. We can't let it go to just 2 or 3 major events a year. Things have changed. This board that we have now is a member of 10. They're from all aspects of the city. They're business people. We have a pastor on our board. We have citizens. They are determined to make this work for our community. It's not something that we want to do without.
Okay. So if we wait till March, though, it doesn't jeopardize your matching grant?
If we wait till March, the grant that it's not a matching grant. It's only 40,000, but it would increase our capabilities of finishing the project of renovation.
Okay.
It would.
I feel like you're kind of trying to tell me that you need the money now without really expressing what the clear ramifications of waiting till March were.
If we don't have monies soon, we have to close the doors permanently, and we'll have to sell the building as it is. We'll have to find a buyer.
Thank you. That's what it sounded like you were saying. I appreciate it.
Supervisor Gabbard.
2 points, one's a question. Thank you for coming well prepared. I feel bad that you're standing up there and getting browbeaten. Someone on the ARPA committee, tell me why they were chosen over somebody else, or that you didn't bring 2 or 3 more of these. Somebody must have an answer on that, right?
So for clarification, there was an initial Spirit application put out publicly for about a week, and it was causing a lot of confusion. It was having people try to send over hundreds of pages of documents the way it was written. So we reassessed and did it more of a survey. Amro Area Community Center submitted the original application with blueprints, with a budget, with all the information that was needed. Just about all the other submissions were not this thorough because they filled out the original application. Because we had all the information in the application, we didn't have to request additional information, and because their tax filings, their 990s, are public record, that was all online. Like I said, I think in September. That's why we had all the information. All the information was in here. All the information was online. This is one of the few that we got that has that full everything that was needed. So we didn't have to keep going back and forth with them to ask for more financials, ask for more details. So that's why this one, we have everything. We've been able to assess. We've been able to look through 4 years of taxes and see everything that they have in savings, that they have cash on hand. So it was, in the commission's mind, an easy one because everything was right here.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Bender.
I will support the resolution, basically waiting till March. I mean, we haven't got our facility study back yet. We have no idea how much money we're going to need to bring our buildings up to code and to be a safe environment for the employees we got working here and the people that are using them. And then you take our budget this year, I see we're taking almost $6 million out of reserve to balance our budget. You know, we haven't done hardly any county projects. We don't know how much money the county's gonna need. You wanna look at a park, go through County Park. I mean, the pavilions need to be updated, you know, the people want a pickleball court. You can go on and on. The Expo Center needs $3.5 million upgrade. The water leaks in the front door when it rains. You know, when we complete the county projects, like I always said, if we have money left, I'm more than happy to support any nonprofit. But normally you take care of your own budget first, because we're responsible to Winnebago County taxpayers. The city of Amarillo got $3 million worth of ARPA money. I don't know how much money they donated to that community center. You know, they got $145,000 that the county gave them. I don't know why they didn't contribute to that. You know, I just seen Nina open up a community center for $9 million. They didn't ask us for any money. The city of Oshkosh has 2 senior centers. They don't ask us for any money. You know, if the city of Amarillo wants a community center, why don't they support it? That's what tax dollars are for. Help the community center out, get the money from the city of Amarillo.
Supervisor Eisen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I fear there are obstructionists challenging this project. And I do fear that this cabal will challenge every project from the nonprofit sector that comes before this board. With that in mind, I call the question and I seek your support to pass this request and resolution.
We have a motion on the floor that is held until the 13th, or 19th. 19th of March, am I correct? 19th of March. So there's already that motion on the floor. So is that the question you're calling? No, he's not. Okay, well, there's already a motion
No,
on the floor.
this is, what, is that that's the amendment?
Well, that's
to
a motion. They made a
postpone?
motion, postpone until March 19th.
Yeah, let's go with that, because it's time that this board takes action. We've got.
To wait
we've
until
got
next
30
March?
We got $32 million to,
The question has been called. So those of you that are in favor of it, we're going to do.
Call the
yes.
question.
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to have clear instructions, please, on what we're voting on right now, which is call the question, correct?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Calling the question to
Yes.
go ahead and be March 19th, 2024 before this. Right, but that's what her motion is. So then we'll go ahead and I'm calling the question. So, right, so on the question here, those that call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. The question has been called. Now back on the original motion.
Motion postponed.
Oh, what? The motion postponed. It's all March 19th. Right. March 19th, 2024. Okay. So now it's March 19th, 2024. For this will be brought up again. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Nay. That has failed. We're back on it here then. Approving the $250,000 for the Spirit Fund. Supervisor Beam.
Call the question.
Second. Motion's made and second for calling the question. All right. So that will hold on for you. We'll do this on our iPads.
We're calling the question.
So in those in favor of Resolution 275, 1020. Oh, I thought we called the question already. Right. Oh, okay. So on the calling the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. You already did that. Oh, okay. You're in favor of it?
On the screen, it says vote, call the question. On my iPad, it says vote on the resolution. It's called
Hey.
You moved to call the question, so now you're gonna vote on calling the question.
Right.
And
She
the
just wants to make
question
sure.
Is the original resolution.
Right.
But first, no, what you did was the amendment.
Right, right, the amendment.
So now we're doing it.
You're right, you are totally correct. So now we're voting
And
on,
it's 2/3. When it's called.
packet.
Well, you can have it if you need it, so it was in the packet for me. I mean, I can always, I don't need it, I can have it on the computer if I need it.
You just have to clarify, they're not calling the question on the resolution, they're just calling the question. Can't hear you, Mary Ann.
Yes, we are, on the resolution.
That's what I thought. They keep on telling me no.
We're ending debate on the original motion to approve.
Go ahead.
Right.
Okay. So there was a motion to call the question, and the motion was to see whether Supervisor Dowling's request to lay this over until March 19th would go forward. That failed, okay? So now, there was a motion to call the question regarding the original resolution. So right now, what you're voting on is to call the question, not for the Dowling, because that's done, but for the original. Call the question on that, and then you can vote on the underlying resolution. That's what I was talking to Julie about. No, that's done. That's. This is different. This one's different.
I'm gonna have to go back. Okay,
Okay, we're gonna have to go back. If you want it written exactly right, she'll write it exactly right, but we'll have to vote all over again.
The vote for what?
For calling the question. No, that was on the first one.
That was on the first one. There was 3 of them, you gotta remember.
I took out all the votes. So for calling the question on the resolution that is before us. Yes. We can do that. I mean, I can put it to voice.
Okay, for calling the question, I'm gonna do a voice vote. Calling the question. All those in favor of calling the question signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it.
Okay.
Now we're on the resolution, right?
Now you're on the resolution.
Now I am on the resolution, 2075-10-2023, approving the $250,000 from the Spirit Fund Government Identified Community Project category to renovate the Armour Area Community Center.
And it's a majority. This one is a majority.
Right, so we're going to vote by our machines, because this is a majority.
You have to vote, Tommy. Passed. Yep, 28-3.
It passed, 28-3. Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, adjourned.